Hello, romance lovers. Today's story is called It's a Doll, but the Tyrant is Obsessed. If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more exciting stories. Prologue. The young aristocrat fell to his knees. He was wounded. He could hardly breathe because his wound was mortal. The last minutes of the young man's life had come. Next to the fallen young man stands an aristocrat in a white uniform and with a sword in his hands. It was he who wounded his vis-a-vis. Apparently, the aristocrat is very nervous. Because of this, he covered his face with his hands. The maids who are in the room look at what is happening and panic. The aristocrat in the white uniform is named Declan Stoffen. His subjects have nicknamed him the Son of the Rising Empire for his past merits and unquestionable authority. But today, this once noble and fair emperor has crossed the last line and finally lost touch with reality, revealing himself as a real maniac. Declan Stoffen stepped away from the wounded boy and looked at the girl who also suffered because of his cruelty and madness. The aristocrat thought for a moment and said that if his sister Chloe were alive, she would now be the same age as this unfortunate girl. Declan Stoffen's voice was filled with overwhelming sadness and bitterness of loss. The mad emperor looks at the girl with condemnation and regrets that his sister is dead and not here. In Declan Stoffen's opinion, this is very unfair. The young lord lowers his deadly blade but does not let it go. He looks around in the hope of seeing his dead sister Chloe. But another disappointment awaits him. Behind Declan Stoffen lies another girl whom he struck with his sword. A boy is leaning over her, mourning her, and trying to help her somehow. But it is no use. The girl is dead. The mad aristocrat turned to the dead girl. A saddened boy sat next to her. Declan Stoffen looked at the boy and said that Sister Chloe never cried while she was alive. She always protected her brother. The upset boy cries and tries to say something to the unfortunate girl's killer, but his speech remains incoherent and incomprehensible due to his excitement. The words freeze on the boy's lips. Declan Stoffen approached the boy and prepared to strike him with his blade. But suddenly he turned his attention to his favorite doll, which was located near his throne. The toy suddenly fell to the ground. This greatly excited the mad aristocrat. A beautiful doll in a blue dress fell to the floor and broke into pieces. This toy looks very much like the dead girl the boy is mourning. And her name is also Chloe. Crazy Declan Stoffen thinks that the doll is his sister. The mad aristocrat turned to the fallen doll and asked her if she was hurt and if everything was okay. There was no answer. Declan Stoffen is finding it increasingly difficult to contain his emotions. His brain and nerves are inflamed. This madman is on the verge of a complete breakdown of personality. He was very upset that his favorite doll fell on the floor and got hurt. This was the last straw in the cup of his madness. The aristocrat fell to his knees and fell into a stupor. Declan Stoffen clutched his stomach. He began to spasm. Pain burned the insides of a madman who had completely lost control of his personality. A young man with a blade in his hands approached the mad emperor. He intended to kill his master. The young aristocrat turned to the mad emperor and said that he was tired of enduring his tyranny and crazy rule. He asked his master for forgiveness for what he was about to do, but the mad ruler pays no attention to his subject. The emperor crawls to his favorite doll, which lies on the floor not far from him, saying that he will soon fix the broken toy. The doll lies on the floor. This lifeless object is indifferent to everything that is happening now. Declan Stoffen extended his hand towards his favorite toy and said that he would fix everything soon, and everything would be fine. Chloe just had to wait a little while and hope for her emperor. A young aristocrat who wants to kill the mad tyrant raised his sword over him and asked Chloe for forgiveness for not being able to protect her brother from another danger this time. The mad emperor fanatically reaches for his beloved doll. Finally, he reaches his favorite toy and kisses it passionately. The young man stands behind his mad master and prepares to deliver the fatal blow. One more moment and the young man will carry out his just retribution, and the decisive blow of the deadly blade will be delivered to the mad emperor. But Declan Stoffen does not pay any attention to this. He is busy communicating with his favorite doll named Chloe. The prologue is over. The action takes place in the real world. The girl is sitting in the back seat of her parents' car and reading her favorite novel on her phone. She is happy that the hero of this story, Declan Stoffen, finally got what he deserved and died at the hands of his subordinate. The main character of our story cannot understand why the mad emperor decided to kill everyone around him after the death of his sister. This is a really stupid act. The girl's older brother, who is sitting in front, saw that his sister was reading a romantic novel and made an edifying remark to her. He does not approve of the girl's passion for such useless, in his opinion, books. The main character replied that she had read only a little and asked her father, who was driving the car, how long it would take them to get to their destination. The girl's father replied that it would take a long time and that she could play on her phone or sleep. The girl sighed in disappointment and asked her father to wake her up when they arrived at the right place. In the meantime, the main character wants to get some sleep. She quickly fell asleep and had a pleasant dream. Declan Stoffen had not yet gone mad. He behaved decently and happily communicated with his sister Chloe, who was still alive. The main character felt very sorry for this unfortunate emperor, who had not been spared by cruel fate. The girl thought that Declan Stoffen could be understood, considering that he had experienced very strong pain from the loss of his beloved sister. At that moment, something terrible happened. The car in which the main character and her relatives were in an accident. They all died instantly. The girl did not even have time to feel anything. But now something strange happens. The main character finds herself in the fantasy world of her favorite novel. She cannot understand what happened and tries to comprehend what is happening. The girl hears unfamiliar voices of some aristocrats who remind her of someone. The main character remembers that her parents organized a fun trip for her in honor of her admission to a higher educational institution. She went on a trip by car. Then the girl read her favorite novel and fell asleep in the back seat of the car because it was still a long way to her destination. After that, something happened and the main character found herself in the fictional world of her favorite novel. The girl tries to come to her senses and understand what is happening. She sees two luxuriously dressed aristocrats with refined manners in front of her, who are communicating with their emperor. The main character cannot yet understand who these people are. They are trying to prove to their master that it is impossible to start a new war at the moment, because the country has not yet recovered from previous military actions with numerous enemies. The state needs time to restore its strength and resources. The emperor sits on his throne and listens attentively to his subordinates. After a pause, he says that the speakers are being too noisy today. It irritates him. The girl looked closely at the nobles who were at the emperor's reception and concluded that they had a European appearance and manners. This circumstance pleased the main character. One of the speakers, who became particularly heated, continued to prove to his master that a new war would cause the people to hate the emperor. This was absolutely unacceptable. The emperor listened attentively to his subordinate and smiled meaningfully. Apparently, he had already made a decision that could not be changed. The ruler addressed the speaker, calling him Count Nolan. He said that the count was a very brave aristocrat and therefore decided to teach him how to rule the empire. The main character found the emperor's voice very familiar, especially his intonation. The girl wants to look at the ruler of the empire, but she realized that she cannot turn her head. This seemed very strange to the main character. She tried to say something, but the girl's voice sounded only in her head. No one hears the main character because she can't say anything out loud. The emperor smiled and stroked the girl's hair. The ruler asked her what she thought about Count Nolan's words. The main character cannot understand what is really happening now and why the ruler of the empire is now consulting with her. The overlord holds a lock of the girl's hair in his hand and looks at her carefully. He turns to her and calls her by her name, Chloe. Now everything becomes clear to the main character. She finds herself in her favorite romantic novel, and Emperor Declan Stoffen is standing in front of her. This shocks the girl. The main character knows only one girl named Chloe. She is the sister of the ruler who went mad and died ingloriously as a result. Could it be that she was reborn and became Declan Stoffen's sister? The girl can't come to her senses from the realization of what is happening. She looks at the emperor, whom she can now see, and doesn't understand what to do next. Declan Stoffen took his throne again and looked at the main character who was sitting next to him. But the girl couldn't move and her words froze on her lips. It seemed that something unusual had happened to her. For a moment, the main character remembered everything she knew about the proud and cruel emperor who went mad. And the girl almost lost consciousness again from fear and uncertainty. She understands that she is at an important state council. The main aristocrats of the empire and the emperor's close associates are present. The main character is sitting next to Declan Stoffen and is in the body of his favorite doll, which he named after his dead sister. The emperor's younger sister died in childhood. The elder brother loved her very much, and the mental wound from the loss of his beloved sister remained with Declan Stauffen for the rest of his life. After the death of his younger sister, he went crazy and became very cruel. Declan Stauffen killed his older brother to take his father's throne and become emperor. The mad emperor was left with his beloved doll from his dead sister, into which he put all his unrealized love for Chloe. Declan Stauffen became obsessed with a fragile doll, also named Chloe. The mad emperor often spent time alone with her and cried, remembering his dead sister and wanting to take revenge on the whole world for the pain of loss he experienced. Declan gradually began to lose the support of his confidants, who began to realize that the emperor's madness was progressing. According to the plot of the romantic novel, the mad ruler of the empire is executed by his close friend named Mason Buckle. But at this moment, Declan Stauffen is still alive, so the main character cannot understand at what point in history she found herself. When Declan became the ruler of the empire, his younger sister Chloe was already dead. This means that the main character's consciousness is in the doll that the crazy emperor adores. The girl understands that now she can forget her real name, Ellen Airy, which she bore in the real world before her reincarnation. At the moment, she should call herself Chloe, because her soul is in the artificial body of the doll of the same name. She tried to move her hand, but nothing worked. Declan Stauffen admires his beloved doll and talks to her. This greatly discourages the main character. She cannot answer the emperor with a single word. The girl did not expect such a turn of events. She tries to make a movement or say at least a word, but again she is disappointed because it is impossible. Dolls do not have such abilities. Frustrated, Chloe tries to understand why, of all the roles in her favorite novel, she got to play the helpless, voiceless doll. It's just awful. Besides, the girl would have to spend her days in the company of a crazy tyrant who had completely lost his mind. Chloe became even more saddened by these depressing thoughts. The unfortunate girl always dreamed of becoming as beautiful and irresistible as the main character of this romantic novel named Stella. But now, she will have to live in the motionless body of some doll. Chloe has also always liked the main villain of this fantasy story, Jennifer, who is not known for her easygoing nature, but she has an unwavering spirit. The main character does not understand why she had to become an inanimate object that can do nothing. Maybe there is some meaning in this, but so far the girl has not found it. Suddenly, Declan Stauffen leaned over to Chloe and asked her something, seeking her advice on Count Nolan's statements. The mad emperor pretends to talk to his doll, but in reality, he is talking to himself. He thinks he hears Chloe's voice. Declan Stauffen's eyes flashed with anger and fury. He made a cruel decision in an instant, one that would have dire consequences. The mad emperor stands up from his throne and takes his sword out of its sheath. He is preparing to do something terrible. The main character cannot understand what is happening. Declan Stauffen's subordinates were wary. They knew all too well the wild and unpredictable nature of their master. The frightened aristocrats froze in anticipation. The mad emperor walked towards the table where the members of the state council were sitting. He intended to immediately carry out what had come into his head. Declan Stauffen approaches the frightened aristocrats. Count Nolan addressed the overlord and suggested that everyone calm down immediately, so as not to do anything rash. But the emperor came close to the frightened Count Nolan and addressed him with the words that Chloe had given him excellent advice. Declan Stauffen must immediately get rid of the traitors who surround him. The main character was very surprised when she heard the words of the crazy aristocrat. She did not give the emperor any advice because she does not know how to speak. Declan Stauffen stands next to Count Nolan, who is almost scared to death. The emperor enjoys the fear of his subordinate. He is very pleased to realize his power and impunity. Count Nolan came to his senses a little and realized that he had to do something to stay alive and not feel the full extent of the Lord's wrath. He hastened to turn to the other members of the state council for help. But all the representatives of the highest nobility of the empire present here did not even think to stand up for the unfortunate count. They are silent and look away. The mad emperor pays no attention to what is happening around him. He is completely focused on his thoughts and holds his sword tightly in his hand, preparing to use it. A very tense situation developed. Suddenly, one of the aristocrats present decided to intervene in what was happening. This greatly surprised the mad emperor. A handsome nobleman with blonde hair decided to stand up for the unfortunate Count Nolan and asked Declan Stauffen to show mercy. The mad ruler took notice of the brave young man and ordered him not to interfere in the situation. It could end badly for him. The main character watches what is happening. She looked at the young aristocrat who dared to contradict the crazy emperor and recognized him. This daredevil is called Mason Buckle. He is a friend of Declan Stoffen, who, according to the plot of the novel, must kill him. There can be no doubt. This blue-eyed blonde is a close friend of the emperor, who will play a fatal role in his fate. The romantic novella that Chloe finds herself in is called Love Blooming in Ruins. In this gripping story, Mason Buckle is the main character, and also serves as one of the chief ministers of the empire, and is a close friend of the Mad Emperor. Mason Buckle is the only person in the state who can stand up to Declan Stoffen and stop him if he is planning to do something terrible. The main character watches the crazy emperor and the young aristocrat who dared to go against his will with great tension. She wants the current situation to be resolved happily, but Declan Stoffen is not going to back down from his terrible plans. He turned to the unfortunate Count Nolan and said that he dare not contradict him, because he had never held a weapon in his hands. The Mad Emperor added that the Count's life should serve as a fair price for his disobedience. Mason Buckle watches his master closely and does not lose his presence of mind. The Emperor's green eyes are full of anger and determination. He does not want to give in and spare the disobedient noblemen who dared to humiliate his master in front of other aristocrats. Declan Stoffen points his sword at the terrified Count Nolan, but Mason Buckle doesn't want to back down either. He's determined to fight to the end and says the Emperor's late sister wouldn't approve of what the Emperor is about to do. The nobles, surprised and frightened, watch the situation closely. They are amazed by the courage of the Emperor's friend, but they believe that Mason Buckle is taking too much on himself and has already crossed the forbidden line. The Mad Ruler's best friend insists. He tells Declan Stoffen that it is now 2:00 in the afternoon. This is the time the Emperor always had tea with his sister when she was still alive. Something changed in the ruler's mood when he heard his friend's words about his untimely departed sister Chloe. He briefly recalled the pleasant moments spent with her. Count Nolan noticed this immediately and was very surprised. The main character, whose consciousness is trapped in the body of a doll, looks closely at the arguing aristocrats. She understands that the situation has begun to change for the better. Declan Stoffen takes his friend's advice and goes to the greenhouse to have tea with his favorite doll. He pours the aromatic tea and says that Mason Buckle was right. He shouldn't have forgotten about tea with his sister. The Mad Emperor showed Chloe the beautiful lilies he had bought especially for her. These are his younger sister's favorite flowers. The main character looks at the white petals and for some reason becomes scared. Afterwards, Declan Stoffen offered the silent doll, which contains the main character's consciousness, a piece of his little sister's favorite cookie. Chloe can't answer, but she thinks that this is the first time she's seen someone with such a profound mental disorder. The unfortunate girl has a very bad headache. It turns out that she can feel pain. The main character also feels very depressed because of the recent incident in the throne room. Declan Stoffen smiled and said that Chloe would definitely like the cookies because they were especially soft and tender today. The Mad Emperor looks closely at his favorite doll, which he believes is the embodiment of his little sister. He decided that she liked the cookies, but Chloe thinks that this madman should not decide anything for her. The girl is very sorry that she cannot answer Declan Stoffen. The main character, with every minute spent in the company of the mad aristocrat, increasingly feels as if she has ended up in some kind of madhouse. It's terrible when a person with unlimited power and might talks to a speechless doll and feeds it cookies. The main character can't believe that all this is really happening to her. When the girl read the novel in the real world, she was always very irritated by Declan Stoffen's mental illness and his abnormal behavior with the people around him. The inglorious and terrible end of the Mad Emperor made Chloe very happy when it happened, according to the plot of the novel. The main character looked at Declan Stoffen carefully. At that moment, he seemed very handsome to the girl. She likes the appearance of the Mad Emperor and his green eyes. Suddenly, Mason Buckle entered the greenhouse where Chloe and the ruler of the empire were drinking tea. He greeted his master and asked for a few minutes. The Emperor's friend got straight to the point and said that Declan Stoffen had gone too far with Count Nolan today. The Emperor replied that he had no other choice. Mason Buckle listened attentively to his interlocutor and replied that such a situation should not happen again. Otherwise, all his close associates and friends would turn away from the Emperor. The Mad Ruler continues to calmly eat cookies and pretends that nothing terrible happened today. Declan Stoffen said that his friend should leave immediately if he had come to lecture and moralize. Mason Buckle replied that the Emperor was obliged to listen to him. His future fate depended on it. The mad ruler of the empire began to get angry at his honest and frank friend. He approached his favorite doll and began to stroke her hair. After that, the emperor said that he would not tolerate rude words towards him in the presence of Chloe. Mason Buckle looked with contempt and hatred at the damned doll of the emperor, which drove him crazy. The main character noticed this terrible look of the minister, and it alarmed her. The girl would like to answer the disappointed aristocrat that she is not guilty of anything. But she will not be able to do this. She has to simply accept what is happening. According to all the court aristocrats, the cursed doll Chloe, which drives the emperor more and more crazy every day, is to blame for all the troubles that have happened to Declan Stoffen. But the main character does not agree with this. The girl understands that she found herself in a very stupid and dangerous situation. She is not guilty of anything and has a pure soul. But it turned out that now she has to endure all this and not even have the opportunity to answer her haters. Suddenly, the main character remembered the main plot of the novel in which she found herself and realized that an unenviable fate awaited her too. On the day the Mad Emperor dies, the Chloe doll will also be destroyed. It will smash on the floor of the throne room and shatter into many small pieces. The girl was overcome with an overwhelming horror from the realization of what awaited her in the near future. Would she really just sit motionless in one place, waiting for her sad and terrible end? Chloe just thought about it now. And she felt not only scared, but also hurt. It all seemed so unfair. But there had to be some way out of this situation. Declan Stoffen turned to his friend and told him to be quiet around Chloe. She was not to be disturbed during tea. At that moment, the main character realized that she had only one way out of this terrible situation. She must, at all costs, change the fate of the Mad Emperor in order to stay alive. Mason Buckle looks at his best friend who has completely lost his mind and is obsessed with his little sister's doll. He feels very sorry for Declan Stoffen. He used to be a completely different person, but now the once proud and strong emperor has turned into a dangerous and unpredictable madman. At this time, the main character continues to reflect on the current situation. She understands that the mad ruler listens to his doll, and, as it seems to him, follows all her advice. Perhaps this can be used in the future. If Declan Stoffen stays alive, the main character will also be safe. It is worth thinking carefully about this to find a way to implement it. As long as the ruler of the empire is alive, he is the de facto guardian of his beloved doll. And despite all their hatred, the disgruntled aristocrats will not be able to cause Chloe any harm. The main character looked at Declan Stoffen again. He is very handsome, but unfortunately his mind is clouded. But the girl needs to save this madman at any cost to stay alive. Chloe has decided to fight for her survival to the end. She will do everything in her power to prevent her master's death, but it will be a difficult task. Mason Buckle and Declan Stoffen continue their conversation. The Emperor's friend wants to convey to him another very important thought that will affect the life of the entire state. The minister asked the mad ruler to get the idea of another war out of his head. Another armed conflict could destroy the state ruled by Declan Stoffen. Mason Buckle looks confidently into the eyes of his interlocutor. He will stand his ground to the end, but the emperor does not want to give in to his minister. The main character remembered that the unnecessary war would be one of the reasons for the death of her guardian. With his thoughtless and cruel actions in international politics, Declan Stoffen only destroyed his state and turned all his comrades against him. Chloe remembered the plot of her favorite novel. If there had been no war, the main character of the novel, Stella, would not have been taken hostage by the enemies. In addition, Stella is Mason Buckle's lover. This circumstance turned him away from the emperor. The main character realized that in order to save herself, she had to prevent a new war at any cost. This would save Declan Stoffen from death and protect Chloe. She felt some relief after these thoughts. This is already something to start saving herself with. But another question arises. How to do it? At the moment, Declan Stoffen insists on his own. He said that Mason Buckle is a very funny man if he prefers to talk about peace and not war. It is necessary for the strengthening of the empire. And all aristocrats should understand this. The Mad Emperor no longer wants to communicate with his minister. He told him to leave. The main character is very disappointed with the stubbornness and stupidity of her guardian. But the best friend of the ruler of the empire is not going to give in. He insists on his own. Mason Buckle told the emperor that he is only inventing new excuses to avoid peace and quiet. The minister added that the ruler was playing with his favorite doll in the palace and preparing for a new war just to escape from reality. This should not be done, no matter how cruel the reality. Fears must always be faced. Declan Stoffen did not expect to hear such words from his minister, who must obey him unquestioningly and grovel before him. This greatly surprised the Mad Emperor. Mason Buckle does not lose hope of persuading his master and friend to get rid of the guilt that haunts him. He said that Declan Stoffen should not blame himself for the death of his younger sister because he did everything in his power. These words confused the Mad Emperor. He grabbed his head and said that he did not understand what Mason Buckle was talking about. After that, Declan Stoffen ordered his minister to leave the flower greenhouse immediately. The mad ruler began to get angry. His beautiful green eyes began to sparkle with anger. He again ordered the brave nobleman to leave the room to avoid another fit of unbridled rage. Mason Buckle realized that all his efforts were useless. Declan Stoffen could no longer be persuaded or cured of his madness. The young minister decided to leave the greenhouse. The emperor's brave friend left the room that smelled of lilies. Declan Stoffen cursed and grabbed his head again, which suddenly began to ache. The main character watches her guardian closely. Chloe felt sorry for the unfortunate madman, who still blames himself for the death of his younger sister and takes out his anger on the people around him. It's all very sad. Chloe looked closely into Declan Stoffen's eyes and realized that this man was suffering a lot somewhere deep inside, but was trying to hide behind aggression and cruelty. The main character cannot understand why the once strong and proud aristocrat chose the path of madness to escape from the reality that oppresses him. Does he really not have the strength and self-respect to resist his madness? The Mad Lord decided to stroke the yellow hair of his favorite doll again to calm down after talking with his friend. At that moment, the main character noticed that Declan Stoffen was looking at her with great tenderness and love. Chloe felt ashamed of her bad thoughts about this unfortunate madman. Be that as it may, it was very selfish of the main character to think only about her own problems in the current situation. Declan Stoffen deserves at the very least pity and sympathy. When evening came, the Mad Emperor put his favorite doll to bed and covered her with a blanket. The main character didn't like this at all. She again felt her helplessness. Declan Stoffen gently tucked Chloe into his bed. He was going to sleep with his favorite doll. But the main character was not very happy about this prospect. She hoped that the Mad Emperor would leave her alone at least for the night. Chloe's guardian decided to turn off the lamp next to the bed so that the bright light would not disturb the Emperor's ward's sleep. Declan Stoffen finished all the preparations for bed and leaned over his favorite doll. He looked at her carefully and froze for a second from another attack of tenderness. But the mad ruler quickly came to his senses and kissed his ward on the forehead. This completely upset the main character. She was once again convinced that Declan Stoffen had completely lost touch with reality. The Emperor finished preparing for bed and lay down in his bed next to his favorite doll. A few minutes later, he fell asleep. The main character lies next to Declan Stoffen and tries to comprehend everything that is happening to her now. The brotherly kiss goodnight from the mad ruler of the empire touched Chloe very much. A feeling similar to tenderness began to arise in her heart. She gradually changed her attitude towards the cruel ruler and began to understand him better. The main character can't move because her consciousness is in the doll's body. Chloe thinks that she can't do anything yet and is powerless to change anything in the current situation. Will she really have to humbly wait for her imminent death? Night has already fallen over the luxurious imperial palace. Everything is quiet, and the stars are twinkling in the sky. But Chloe thinks about how unfairly fate has treated her. The girl remembered her family. At the moment, she misses them very much. Having found herself in the fantasy world of her favorite romantic novel, Chloe cannot even find out whether they survived the car accident. The main character thought about her unfair fate, but relief does not come to her. She dreams that everything that is happening is just a bad dream. There is a huge white moon shining in the night sky, which makes the girl sad. Chloe wants to wake up in the real world tomorrow and forget about the cruel emperor and everything that happened to her here. Suddenly, Declan Stoffen turned over in his sleep and hugged his favorite doll. This always calms him down. The main character did not expect such a turn of events and was very surprised. Chloe tries to move again, to change her position and move away from the emperor. But it is impossible. The girl can do nothing. She protests against it with her whole being. The mad emperor continues to sleep. He dreams of his younger sister, who died long ago, but the main character is very scared of what is happening now. She does not want to hug Declan Stoffen, but the unfortunate aristocrat hugged his favorite doll even tighter and cried in his sleep. He asked his dead sister not to leave him and never leave him alone in this cruel and crazy world. Declan Stoffen continued to talk to his sister in his sleep, asking her forgiveness for failing to protect her from the deadly disease. The mighty and cruel emperor cried again in his sleep. The main character noticed his tears and thought that this man should be pitied. Previously, she could not understand all the pain that the unfortunate ruler of the empire was experiencing. At that moment, the main character remembered her family again and felt a strong longing for her loved ones. Now she understands that the mad emperor experiences something similar. Chloe was very touched when she saw her master and guardian cry. She could understand how much pain he was going through all the time. Now she feels sorry for Declan Stoffen, despite all his crimes and cruel actions. The main character is very sorry that she cannot touch the unfortunate emperor now to support him in his difficult moment. The damn doll's body is to blame for everything. But then something unexpected happened. Chloe wanted to touch Declan Stoffen so much that her artificial doll fingers started to move a little. Then the girl got control of her whole hand and felt that she could move it. It was just some kind of miracle. A few moments later, the main character was able to raise her hand and touch the face of the emperor, crying in his sleep with her artificial fingers. She was very surprised that she was able to do it. Joy and wonder filled Chloe's soul. She achieved what she wanted and began to move forward thanks to her strong spirit. Sincere feelings create real miracles. Declan Stoffen continues to sleep quietly, but Chloe touched his chin. She did it very carefully so as not to wake the sleeping emperor. The main character can't believe that she can move now. She decided to try touching Declan Stoffen's head again, and she succeeded. Chloe was very happy about her successful experiment. But after a few seconds, something happened, and the main character lost the ability to move again. She does not understand how this happened. Just now, Chloe could touch Declan Stoffen's face without any problems, but now she can't move her artificial hand again. This has left the girl very upset. The main character also felt a strange discomfort in her head. She cannot understand what is happening to her now. All this is very strange and requires rational analysis, but Chloe won't think about that now. She's focused on the unfortunate emperor who needs moral support. The girl thinks that he can still be helped to overcome his mental illness. The main character looked closely at her guardian. He was fast asleep, and apparently he had become calmer. The nightmare that tormented the emperor was over. Suddenly, Chloe felt something strange happening to her. She felt some kind of malaise. This scared Declan Stoffen's ward a little. Consciousness began to leave the main character. She had never felt anything like this. The girl had a terrible headache. Chloe felt like her head was about to burst like a balloon. The girl finds it hard to bear this unbearable headache. She closes her eyes, but it doesn't make her feel better. Chloe feels like someone is squeezing her skull with all their might and is trying to crush it. Suddenly, the main character hears her real name. Someone says it and tells her to move the girl to another place. That's where the vision ends, and Chloe finally loses consciousness. It's morning. Sunlight is pouring into Declan Stoffen's room. He's sitting on his bed next to his favorite doll, talking sweetly to her. The main character woke up and realized that something very strange happened to her yesterday. She lost consciousness due to a severe headache, but before that, she heard someone's voice calling her by her real name, Elle and Ari. For a moment, the girl thought that none of this had really happened to her, and that it was just some kind of bad dream. But then she began to believe in what was happening again. The main character realizes that she has magically ended up in the body of a cursed doll, which everyone around her hates, except for the crazy emperor Declan Stoffen. But can an ordinary doll feel pain if it is made of artificial materials? Also, the confused girl cannot understand what is happening to her soul now that she ended up in a doll's body. Chloe is in great pain because she can't move or talk. She made some progress yesterday, but her ability to move has suddenly disappeared again. It's very sad. The emperor stands next to his favorite doll. He looks at her attentively, but Chloe does not pay any attention to her guardian. She is completely immersed in her thoughts. Declan Stoffen smiled and picked up a lock of his charge's blonde hair. He said he wanted to brush Chloe's hair and freshen it up. The main character was very surprised. The girl felt some internal tension when she realized that the mad ruler of the empire wanted to show his concern and comb her hair, tangled after a night's sleep. A few seconds later, Declan Stoffen had a comb in his hands, which he began to skillfully use. The main character had to resign herself to and endure the manifestation of her guardian's care. The Emperor continues to gently brush his charge's hair. Apparently, he does this every morning because he is so good at it. Declan Stoffen told Chloe to give a sign if she is in pain. A few minutes later, the Emperor's valet entered his room. He bowed politely to his master and asked him if he had slept well that night. Declan Stoffen said he had slept well that night and ordered his efficient servant to leave the formalities of palace etiquette aside and get on with his direct duties. The valet smiled at his master and replied that it was really important for him to know how the Emperor was feeling. Besides, it was part of his job. The servant added that he was the only person who wished Declan Stoffen good morning, because everyone was very afraid of him and tried to avoid his sight. The main character is very surprised by the valet's dissolute behavior. She fears that this may cause the wrath of the mad emperor, and then the servant will be severely punished. But this time, the cruel and hot-tempered ruler of the empire for some reason only smiled and spoke to his servant in a friendly manner, asking him not to be mean. This surprised the girl very much. She did not expect such a turn of events. The mad emperor's valet is called Noah. He also smiled sincerely at his master and said that he had never intended to upset Declan Stoffen. Chloe remembered reading about Noah in her favorite novel. This young servant loved his master very much. The main character looks closely at the cheerful and happy valet and cannot understand how this kind young man can be friends with an evil and merciless monarch. The girl knows that Noah was never afraid of Declan Stoffen, even when he went completely mad. The servant was always on his master's side and treated him better than anyone in the world. The grateful monarch always appreciated the loyalty of his valet, who was ready to follow him through fire and water. For this, he allows Noah to commit acts that would cost other people their lives. The main character remembered the main plot of her favorite novel. According to the plot of the novel, Noah was saved by the emperor during one of the wars. He found him among the ruins of a burnt house, and the young man swore allegiance to him. For the unfortunate young man, this was a real salvation. He thought that everything was already lost for him in this life. But fate was kind to Noah. Declan Stoffen extended a helping hand to the young man, and he accepted it with gratitude. The mad emperor was not always extremely cruel and bloodthirsty. Noah swore allegiance to Declan Stoffen that same day and has kept his oath to this day. The ruler of the empire has no more loyal or close person. The cheerful valet decided to play along with his master and asked his favorite doll how she slept last night. Noah does this every morning so as not to irritate the emperor. The main character liked this funny young man who knows how to joke very cheerfully and managed to find the right approach in communicating with his sick master. Noah learned to maintain the right balance and not to cross the forbidden line. The valet's behavior shows that he loves everything that is dear to his master. He also treats the emperor's favorite doll well because he considers it his duty. Chloe looked at the cheerful servant and realized that Declan Stoffen could trust only this man. There was no doubt about it. Noah smiled and said that the princess looked delightful today. The emperor was very pleased with that. Declan Stoffen and his faithful servant walked out into the hall. The maids had already lined up in 2 rows to greet their emperor, who was out for his morning walk. The obliging valet ordered the efficient maids to also greet the emperor's favorite doll. After all, she is the ruler's sister and must be treated with due respect. All the servants in this palace play along with Declan Stoffen so as not to irritate him and not receive a cruel punishment for it. The mad emperor watches his maids closely. Suddenly, he notices something terrible. One of the maids did not have time to bow to the ruler's favorite doll. Declan Stoffen quickly approached the careless maid and gave her a stern reprimand. Everyone must greet Chloe with a respectful bow. Disobedience to the servants will be severely punished. The girl was very scared and hurried to bow her head before the emperor's favorite doll. The ruler of the empire calmed down a little after that and told the maid to be more attentive in the future and behave politely enough. The frightened girl did not answer the ruler. She was very scared. The main character watches what is happening and she does not like it at all. The girl thought that the emperor should not punish his maids for such trivial reasons. The impulsive emperor's mood changed again. He became very angry with the maid who did not bow her head before his favorite doll. Stauffen began to draw his sword from its sheath to immediately execute the unfortunate girl. But the valet, Noah, intervened in the dangerous situation. He noticed that the emperor was angry and said that this girl had only just begun to fulfill her duties. She had not yet learned how to behave properly in the palace. Staufen's loyal servant promised to come up with a fitting punishment for the negligent servant for her misdeed. The angry monarch came to his senses a little and ordered the valet to immediately explain to the new servant who his favorite doll, with whom the emperor never parts, really is. The frightened maid said that she knew everything. This doll that the master was holding in his arms was his younger sister. Her name was Chloe, and she was a princess. She should be treated with due respect. The mad emperor listened with disdain to the unfortunate girl who was trying to save her life. Stauffen said that the maid's words sounded somehow not sincere. He did not believe this maid, so her life was in vain. The mad ruler of the empire is full of anger and fury. He took up his sword again to kill the maid on the spot. But in doing so, he hit his favorite doll. The main character tries to stop Stauffen. Chloe feels terrible discomfort because she can't do anything about the situation. Plus, the emperor accidentally hit her with his long blade. That's not very pleasant either. At that moment, the main character looked at the ceiling of the hall and noticed that something was wrong with the huge chandelier that was above her guardian's head. Chloe noticed that the chain holding the huge hanging chandelier was about to snap. This would have very dire consequences for Stauffen. He could die, and again something strange happened. The main character can't move or speak, so she mentally warned her guardian about the danger that threatens him, and it had an immediate effect. It seemed as if Stauffen had heard his favorite doll's warning of the danger that was threatening him and looked up at the chandelier, which was about to break and fall. The ruler of the empire himself cannot understand what is happening now. He acts only thanks to his intuition and an inner voice that tells him to immediately take the necessary measures for his own salvation. Stauffen's gaze lingered on the dangerous candelabra hanging menacingly above his head. The decision was made in a flash. It was not for nothing that the emperor had always been famous for his fighting skills and his instant reaction during battle. At that moment, a large chandelier made of pure gold and with many candles broke away from the ceiling and flew down. But the emperor decided not to jump to the side, because this could damage his favorite doll. He took the blow on himself to save Chloe from harm. The main character was very scared when she saw a chandelier falling from the ceiling. The girl lost consciousness for a few seconds. This is a consequence of the stress she experienced. After it was all over, Stauffen held his favorite doll tightly to his chest. The emperor's only concern at the moment was Chloe's safety. He wanted to know if the doll was okay. The main character tries to come to her senses and understand what just happened to her. Gradually, consciousness returns to the girl, whose soul is trapped in the body of a small doll. Stauffen breathed a sigh of relief when he examined his favorite toy and found it unharmed. He said he had been very scared for it, but now it was all good. Chloe looked closely at her guardian and realized that he had to cover her with his body so that she would not be harmed. This puzzled the girl very much. She did not expect such a noble and sacrificial act from the mad emperor. The main character remembered the huge chandelier that could have killed Stauffen with its weight when it fell down. The girl is grateful to her guardian for taking care of her and saving her from death. The ruler of the empire leaned over his favorite doll and continued to stroke it, talking to it. At this time, the valet, Noah, approached and addressed his master. But the mad emperor pays no attention to his servant. He continues to carefully examine Chloe to rule out any injuries on her body. Stauffen's loyal servant told him that there was blood on his neck. The emperor had been injured when a chandelier fell on him. The proud aristocrat replied that he was fine. It was no use paying attention to such trifles. But the valet, Noah, does not want to back down. He said that caring for the emperor's health is his main responsibility. Therefore, Noah must carefully examine and treat his master's wound. At first, the emperor resisted and waved away his faithful servant. But after a few minutes, thanks to Noah's persistence, he gave in and allowed his wound to be examined. The efficient valet decided to take Stauffen to a suitable place where it would be convenient to treat his wound. He said that he would take care of the emperor. But the Lord replied that first he needed to take care of Chloe. The main character is in the arms of a maid. She noticed blood on her guardian's neck. The girl internally thanks Stauffen for saving her life. Thus, he showed his true nature despite his madness. Still, Chloe knows that Declan Stoffin's health is more important than some artificial doll. She is very upset that she could have accidentally caused her guardian's death. Some time passed, and the passions in the Imperial Castle subsided a little. The valet, Noah, skillfully treated his master's wound. Declan Stoffin is now resting. Suddenly, Mason Buckle burst into his chambers to inquire about the Emperor's health. He is very worried. Declan Stoffin saw his friend and grabbed his head again. It irritated him that everyone was asking about his health. The mighty Emperor would somehow survive the blow of the despised glass chandelier. Mason Buckle moved closer to his master and friend to get a better look at his wound. He was very scared when he saw a deep cut on Declan Stoffin's neck. The Emperor told his minister that it was just a scratch. The wound would soon heal and everything would be fine. Mason Buckle said that a ruler should value his life. Otherwise, the death of Declan Stoffin would put the Empire in great danger. The monarch smiled mysteriously and told his favorite doll that all the people around him treated him like a helpless toy. Declan Stoffin stroked Chloe's soft, light hair and said that she was the only one who really needed care, unlike everyone else here. The main character liked that. Chloe also noted that true friends care so much about Declan Stoffin that they even dare to scold him for not paying enough attention to his health. This shows that these people truly love their emperor. The main character thought sadly that, unfortunately, Declan Stoffin does not listen to the advice of his loved ones at all. His clouded mind wanders in the darkness of past losses and suffering. A small scratch will not be able to affect the emperor, who took part in many bloody battles with the enemies of the state. Chloe remembered that Declan Stoffin had never suffered any injuries during the many battles he had fought in. He had always been a master swordsman. The girl also knew that the emperor's subordinates always protected him well and prevented any troubles that could happen to him. But now the main character realizes that something unusual has happened. Declan Stoffin was injured, sacrificing himself in an unexpected situation. This changed the scenario of the main story. Mason Buckle turned to his master and said that he should be merciful and take pity on the new servant who had made a mistake during the emperor's morning walk around the castle. Declan Stoffin listened to his friend and said that he did not want to show leniency. This would lead to a rebellion of the servants. The emperor also believed that his favorite doll had suffered mental trauma due to the fault of the servant. The mad emperor thought for a moment and added that something strange had happened today during the accident with the chandelier falling. Declan Stoffin felt as if someone invisible had pushed him and saved him from death. The ruler of the empire turned to his faithful valet, Noah, and thanked him for saving him. But Chloe knows that it was she who saved her guardian with her own willpower. The main character looks closely at her hands and tries to understand how she managed to touch Declan Stoffin's face with them. This was very unexpected for Chloe. After a few minutes, the girl realized that she could make a movement happen if she really wanted to. It was worth working on it to better control it. Noah, the valet, asked the emperor what he was going to do with the new maid who had accidentally misbehaved today. Perhaps the ruler wanted to send her out of the palace. Declan Stoffin pondered the fate of the negligent maid. He believes that her example should be used as a lesson to the other servants. Mason Buckle and Noah the valet heard their master's opinion and were horrified. They believe that Declan Stoffin wants to do wrong to the unfortunate girl, who does not deserve severe punishment. The mad emperor said that he did not want to delay the matter and wanted to begin punishing the maid immediately. Let her fate serve as a good lesson to all dissatisfied servants. Declan Stoffin has ordered the maid to be imprisoned, and it must be done immediately. The main character watches her guardian's stupid behavior and begins to get nervous. She really wants the emperor to stop in his madness. The mad ruler of the empire added that the unfortunate servant would be publicly executed tomorrow at dawn. This made Chloe very angry. Suddenly, she punched the emperor in the stomach and fell off the sofa she was sitting on. The girl was able to influence Declan Stoffin again. Mason Buckle noticed that the emperor's favorite doll had fallen to the floor. He asked the emperor why he was treating Chloe so cruelly. But Declan Stoffin was no less surprised than his friend. He replied that he had done nothing, and the doll had fallen to the floor on its own. At that moment, the emperor was very happy, because he realized that Chloe understood him and communicated with him in this way. For a moment, this made Declan Stoffin happy. He always knew that the doll hurt him. Mason Buckle and the valet Noah looked at their master and did not believe his words. They thought that the emperor had begun another attack of madness, but Declan Stoffin knows he's right. He told his friends that Chloe had just punched him hard in the stomach and fallen off the couch onto the floor herself. It's amazing, but true. Friends do not believe the crazy ruler. They said that the emperor needs a good rest today to recover from the accident, and the first minister will take over the government for a while. Declan Stoffen is very upset and bitter because his true friends do not believe him. He looks closely at his favorite doll and wants it to show signs of life. But this does not happen. Evening has come. The emperor has retired with Chloe to his chambers. He is trying to understand what really happened today. It was all very strange and unexpected. Declan Stoffen communicates with his favorite doll and asks her to make at least one more movement so that he can be sure of the truth of his conclusions. The emperor even allows Chloe to hit him again if she wants. The mad ruler of the empire continues to beg his doll. But Chloe cannot move and is very angry with her guardian because of this. In order to make one movement, the main character needs to use a lot of energy. Declan Stoffen insists. He says he is confident in his conclusions and what he saw today. Chloe punched him in the stomach and jumped off the couch herself. The emperor believes he was not imagining it. The main character looks at her guardian attentively. She wants to answer him, but she can't. The girl can't even blink or move her lips. The persistent emperor decided to use another method to achieve success. He threatened his favorite doll and said that she must move now. Otherwise, the ruler of the empire will execute the new servant who had misbehaved today tomorrow. These words greatly offended and upset the main character. She began to think again that human life was just a funny toy for the crazy emperor. The girl, upset by Declan Stoffen's terrible behavior, almost burst into tears. She thought that she had been wrong to pity this stupid and narcissistic aristocrat. But the mad emperor does not calm down. He continues to insist on his own, saying that he is now forced to execute the unfortunate servant tomorrow morning, who did not show due respect to the imperial family. Declan Stoffen took the delicate fingers of his favorite doll in his hand, hoping to feel at least the slightest movement of Chloe. The main character is very angry with the monarch, who does not show himself in the best light. Suddenly, Chloe hit the emperor in the chin with all her might with her small fist. She put all the indignation and anger that had accumulated in her since her acquaintance with Declan Stoffen into this blow. This prank greatly surprised the mad monarch. He did not expect that his favorite doll would give such an eloquent sign that she heard and understood him. But the emperor was pleased. He took Chloe by her small hands again and expressed his delight that his beloved doll could move. Declan Stoffen is happy that his sister's soul is with him, but he does not know that the doll's body is inhabited by the consciousness of another girl. The main character is delighted that she was able to somehow teach the mad emperor a lesson for his stupid and cruel actions towards others. But Chloe did not expect such a reaction from the monarch to her blow. Declan Stoffen was completely moved by the realization that his sister had returned to him after a long separation. He said that now he could make amends with Chloe and give her everything he could. The mad emperor lay down on the bed next to his favorite doll and said that he was ready to fulfill Chloe's wish. If she wanted a pardon for the unfortunate servant, she would get it. The main character listened attentively to her guardian and gathered all her strength to give him a new sign that would express her consent. The girl was able to place her hand on the emperor's palm. It was a sign of agreement that the servant must be pardoned. Declan Stoffen was very happy and said that from now on, Chloe can express her desires in any way convenient for her. The main character liked it. The ruler of the empire smiled and said that he understood all the signs of his favorite doll. He would fulfill Chloe's request and would definitely pardon the unfortunate servant. Now it was a matter of honor for him. The main character is very surprised that the mad emperor will fulfill her request. This means that she can influence Declan Stoffen's decisions. This can be used in the future. Chloe's guardian smiled sweetly at her and said that he would now take her example. From now on, Declan Stoffen would treat his servants with due respect and would not be too strict with them. The main character looked at the photograph of the emperor's younger sister and realized that now he would obey her in everything, because he thought that Chloe's soul was in the body of his favorite doll. The mad emperor stroked his favorite doll's head. She didn't like it very much, but the girl was happy that she was able to save the unfortunate servant from certain death. The main character has already figured out a little how to make some movements. This will be very useful to her when communicating with her guardian. She is grateful to fate for the fact that she has ceased to be a helpless doll that is unable to influence anything in this world. Now everything will be different. The girl looked around Declan Stoffen's room and thought that she felt very sad. Maybe it would be much better for everyone if the Emperor's real sister was still alive. After that, the main character looked at the Mad Emperor, who leaned over her and smiled happily, believing that his sister was next to him. Chloe again felt sorry for the unfortunate monarch. She touched Declan Stoffin's arm again to reassure him a little. In this situation, any means were good. The main thing was that the Mad Emperor remained calm and listened to Chloe. The main character thought again that she was being dishonest with her guardian, pretending to be his dead sister. But there was nothing she could do. The girl needed to somehow survive and save her emperor. For a moment, the main character was curious about how upset Declan Stauffen would be if he found out that the body of his favorite doll was inhabited by the consciousness of a completely different girl, and not his sister. This will be a strong blow to the shattered psyche of the Mad Emperor. Therefore, it is better to leave everything as it is. Sometimes ignorance is the best medicine for a person. The main character is very upset because she ended up in this fantasy world of her favorite novel and can't do anything about it. Now the girl can already communicate a little with her guardian, but this is not enough yet. Suddenly, the mad ruler of the empire turned to his favorite doll and offered to play with her a little, as he did when his little sister was still alive. Declan Stauffen touched his neck wound, which he had received during an accident with a heavy chandelier. The emperor realized that the wound did not bother him much, and again invited his doll to play. The game is about Chloe riding on her guardian's shoulders. When the emperor's younger sister was still alive, she often rode on her brother. The main character looks at Declan Stauffen and doesn't know what to expect from this game. The Mad Emperor did not think long and quickly sat his favorite doll on his neck. He began to ride the main character on himself. The girl thought that Declan Stauffen had a new exacerbation of the disease. After a few minutes, the emperor got tired and decided to rest a little, putting Chloe on the sofa. Now he wants his favorite doll to jump on his neck herself to continue the fun game. The girl doesn't know what to do in this situation. And this has confused her very much. She doesn't understand if she has enough strength to jump on her guardian's neck. The main character thought a little about Declan Stauffen's offer and tried to gather all her strength to fulfill his request. This will require a lot of effort on the part of the girl, but nothing worked this time. Chloe strained all her mental strength to perform the jump on her guardian's shoulders, but it cost her dearly. She passed out from overexertion. The main character lies unconscious on the couch. She gradually began to come to her senses with the realization that she shouldn't try too hard. She needs to master new skills very carefully. Otherwise, she could die. Suddenly, the girl remembered that while unconscious, she heard someone's voice again. This voice was from the real world, and it seemed very familiar to Chloe. All this is very strange. Perhaps the connection of the main character with the real world has not yet been completely and irrevocably broken. Chloe strained her memory a little and remembered what she saw during her unconscious state. The main character was not in the real world, but in the room of the emperor's younger sister and was talking to her. Declan Stauffen's beloved sister is still alive. She combs her doll's hair and calls her Erica. The girl asked the doll if she could confide in her and tell her a secret. The emperor's younger sister, Chloe, told her doll Erica that she was very scared. She thought that she and her brother would soon be killed because they had no friends at all in the imperial palace. But she couldn't do anything because she was still very small and helpless. Chloe showed her favorite doll the scratches on her hands and said that Declan Stauffen told her one wise thought. When calluses appear in the place of these scratches, the emperor's sister will become stronger. The girl looks closely at her damaged palm and dreams of growing up faster and becoming strong to help her older brother defeat all the enemies that surround him in the imperial palace. Chloe looked at herself in the mirror and told Erica that she and her brother had recently been poisoned. It was horrible. But by chance, Declan Stauffen and his sister had survived. The Mad Emperor's younger sister took her favorite doll by the hand and said that she was afraid of dying before her older brother. But not because she was afraid of death. The girl did not want to leave her brother alone. Nature has given Chloe the same beautiful green eyes as her brother. She does not want to cry, but tears come naturally. The princess is afraid that something will happen to her brother if she dies. The girl held back her tears and turned to Erica. The little princess asked her to take care of Declan Stauffen if she died before her older brother. Chloe looked at the picture of her and her brother. The girl told Erica that her brother would be very sad if she died. So the doll would need to support Declan Stauffen in difficult situations for her. The girl strokes the little fingers of her favorite doll and says that if she dies, Declan Stauffen will need to be given a message from his little sister and tell him that he is not guilty of anything. After that, Chloe hugged Erica tightly and laughed happily. She felt much better after talking to her favorite doll. Now the little princess is sure that her brother will have good support in difficult situations. Declan Stauffen's little sister continues to hug her doll, Erica. She asked me to tell him that she loves him very much. And if Chloe dies, he should continue to live happily and not blame himself for anything. A few moments later, the little princess threw her favorite doll up in the air and caught it. She said that tomorrow there would be a hunting competition. Declan Stauffen would be taking part in it for the first time. The next day came. During a hunting competition, the future emperor's younger sister suffered an accident and died. This shocked Declan Stauffen. The prince returned home in complete despair. He could not believe that his beloved sister had died. Declan Stauffen entered Chloe's room and fell to his knees. His mind was beginning to cloud over from the stress he had experienced. The young prince is in a terrible psychological state. He is crying and cannot control his emotions. On the sofa sits his sister's favorite doll, which she called Erica. Declan Stauffen continues to cry uncontrollably and regret the loss of his little sister, who did not yet have time to live in this world and passed away so early and suddenly. Erica sits motionless on the sofa, but the young prince noticed her and turned his attention to her. This distracted him a little from his gloomy thoughts. He became interested in Erica, who looks very similar to Chloe. Artificial eyes reflect the once brave heir to the imperial throne, who now looks very depressed and insignificant. He is heartbroken by the loss of his loved one. At that moment, something strange happened. The room heard Chloe's dying words, asking her favorite doll to take care of Declan Stauffen if she died. That moment became the critical event that caused the protagonist's consciousness to end up in Erica's body. This strange dream of the main character was remembered very clearly by her after she finally came to her senses. The girl tries to comprehend what she saw when she lost consciousness, trying to climb onto Declan Stauffen's shoulders. Chloe recalls her extraordinary vision of the past life of the Mad Emperor and his younger sister. She now has a better understanding of Declan Stauffen and why he went mad. The main character knew that there was a very close family relationship between the ruler of the empire and his beloved sister Chloe. But the girl did not even imagine that they loved each other so much. Chloe felt a little uneasy when she remembered the sad story of the young prince and his beloved sister. She looked at their portrait on the table, and something in the girl's heart sank. She felt very sorry for the Mad Emperor. The main character thinks that life has treated Declan Stauffen very unfairly. That's why he went crazy and became a very cruel ruler of the empire who spares no one. The girl tries to understand why the emperor's younger sister appeared in her strange vision. Perhaps she is now trying to tell the main character something through her favorite doll, in whose body she is located. Now everything became clear to the girl. She imagined Declan Stauffen's dead sister in front of her as an angel, asking her to take care of her older brother and protect him from enemies and misfortunes. The little princess is still as kind and cheerful as before her death. She smiles cheerfully at her favorite doll and asks her to take care of her older brother. He needs help to get rid of the feeling of guilt that haunts him. He must learn to be happy again. The main character looks closely at the little princess in the form of an angel and tries to understand why she has to correct the misfortunes of this aristocratic family, to which she has no relation. The girl thought that all these people were just minor characters in the novel she was reading before she had the car accident. She shouldn't be here, dealing with the problems of a mad emperor. Chloe thinks that all this is some kind of bad dream that will soon end. But after thinking a little, the girl realized that this fantastic reality has become real for her. So she promised the little princess to take care of Declan Stauffen. The main character noticed that she could now move her body better. This would come in handy when she was re-educating the Mad Emperor. Perhaps she would have to use physical methods on Declan Stauffen to make him understand something. After a short warm-up, Chloe noticed that the mad ruler of the empire was not next to her. This was very unlike him. Usually, Declan Stauffen does not leave his beloved doll for a second. For some reason, at this moment, the main character became very scared and anxious for herself and for her guardian, who suddenly disappeared somewhere. Maybe something bad happened to the Mad Monarch. It is necessary to sort this out urgently. But Chloe doesn't know what to do now to find out where Declan Stauffen has disappeared to. The girl's anxiety only intensified from the realization of her complete loneliness. The girl feels that her guardian is in danger, but she can't do anything about it. She needs to do something urgently to clarify the situation and help the Emperor if he is in trouble. The main character remembered the recent accident that happened to Declan Stoffen, and she became very scared. Chloe's guardian may need her help right now, but she is not around. At that moment, the girl felt that she had become very attached to the Emperor. Suddenly, Chloe heard the calm voice of her guardian. She turned towards the voice to look at Declan Stoffen and make sure he was okay. The girl's worries were completely in vain. The ruler of the empire was absent because he was taking a shower. Declan Stoffen was fine. And this made Chloe very happy. The Emperor smiled and greeted his favorite doll. He sat down on the bed next to Chloe and asked how she was doing. The main character was furious with her guardian for leaving her alone, but after a few seconds, the girl managed to control her emotions and calm down a little. She sighed with relief because her guardian was now alive and well. The main character looked at the mad emperor again to make sure that he was completely fine. The girl had to be 100% sure of that. Declan Stoffen approached his favorite doll and picked her up. He said that everything was fine now. The emperor was glad that Chloe was feeling fine again. This address confused the main character a little. The ruler of the empire is fresh and cheerful after water procedures. He holds his favorite doll in his arms and invites her to go to the dining room to gain some strength with a delicious breakfast from the best chefs in the country. The main character and her guardian went to the dining room. Before that, the emperor changed into a beautiful white suit. At breakfast, Declan Stoffen and Chloe are served by the valet Noah. The girl looks at the dishes served with a smile and regrets that her doll body does not allow her to eat. But Chloe is still in a good mood because her guardian is next to her. The main character looks at Noah's valet, who is holding a dish prepared especially for the emperor. The girl noticed something strange about this dish, but she can't figure out what she thought was strange. Something is wrong here. Servant Noah served the master and Chloe a dish, around which the girl noticed a dark haze. He wished Declan Stoffen and his favorite doll a bon appetit. The ruler of the empire thanked the valet for his promptness and allowed him to leave. The main character looks at the dish, which is shrouded in a dark haze. The girl realized that this food is poisoned. Declan Stoffen suspects nothing. He smiles at Chloe and wishes her bon appetit while he is on the brink of death. If the emperor eats this poisoned soup, he will die in unbearable agony. The main character mustered all her strength to make a hand movement and signal to her guardian that the breakfast was poisoned and should not be eaten. The girl managed to turn over her plate and draw the emperor's attention to it. Declan Stoffen looked closely at his favorite doll and was very happy that she showed him her ability to move again. He thought that Chloe simply did not like the soup that Noah brought. The emperor had not yet realized that the food was poisoned. The main character is very upset that Declan Stoffen is blinded by his love for her and does not notice anything around him. He needs to be more smart if he wants to survive in this hostile environment. The ruler of the empire smiles carefreely and tells his favorite doll that from tomorrow on she will be brought different food for breakfast. Today, he will order his cooks to change the menu. After this, the unsuspecting emperor decided to taste the dish that his favorite doll didn't like. Maybe it wasn't so bad. Chloe watches Declan Stoffen, who is about to make the fatal mistake of tasting the poisoned soup. The girl tries to tell the emperor not to eat the deadly concoction. One more moment and it will be over. The guardian of the main character will be poisoned. He will die in cruel torment and Chloe will die next to him, because no one will take care of her anymore. The main character once again gathered all her mental strength and screamed at the top of her voice for Declan Stoffen not to eat the poisoned food. It had an effect. Strangely, the emperor heard Chloe. He does not believe it and thinks it is an auditory hallucination. The emperor was so taken aback that he dropped the spoon that held the poisoned soup. It fell onto the table and then onto the floor. Declan Stoffen turned to Chloe. He was trying to figure out what had just happened. The ruler of the empire looks closely at his favorite doll, but she sits motionless and stares ahead. Declan Stoffen wants to believe that Chloe warned him of the danger. He does not understand how this can be. The mad emperor once again thought he was having another attack of his illness. But Declan Stoffen is sure that he heard Chloe's voice, ordering him not to eat the poisoned food. The monarch found this situation very strange and decided to call his valet Noah to sort it all out right away. The emperor bent down to pick up his spoon, which had fallen on the dining room floor. Declan Stoffen was about to lift his spoon when he suddenly noticed someone standing near the table. This greatly puzzled the ruler of the empire. The mad emperor recoiled at the unexpectedness of the situation. He looked at the unexpected guest who had visited his dining room and thought that he was hallucinating again. Declan Stoffen fell from his chair to the floor and looked again at the unexpected guest. He cannot believe his own eyes, and it seems to him that he has started having delirious visions again. The mad emperor came to his senses a little and realized that in front of him stood a translucent ghost, which was very similar to his favorite doll, but already in the form of a real girl. Declan Stoffen cannot believe that all this is happening in reality. The confused monarch looked at his doll, but it was sitting motionless at the table. It seemed that the emperor could now see the incorporeal essence of his favorite toy, which was a beautiful girl. The main character herself did not expect such a turn of events. Now she has learned to leave her doll body and communicate with her guardian, appearing before him as a ghost. Chloe realizes that she can move freely around the room to any place. She can talk and convey her thoughts to Declan Stoffen. The girl is very happy with her new abilities. The main character smiled and asked her guardian if he could see and hear her. The mad emperor said nothing. He was in a state of shock and did not know what to say now. Chloe began to happily circle around Declan Stoffen to check what she was capable of now. The girl really liked that she could quickly move to any place. After a few moments, the main character calmed down a little and thought about how she managed to leave her doll body and why her guardian can see her now. She doesn't understand how to achieve this again and how to control it. The girl grabbed her head because she almost forgot to do the most important thing. She immediately noticed the plate of poisoned soup standing on the table, emitting a dark haze. Chloe headed towards the poisoned food to get rid of it immediately and protect her master from an inevitable painful death. The main character tried to pick up the plate to throw it away, but it turned out that her hand was going through the poisoned soup and dishes. She can't do anything with material objects because she is a ghostly entity. This situation left Chloe very upset and confused. She realized that she could not touch the plate and throw it away. Maybe something could be done about it in the future, but for now, nothing worked. The main character turned around and looked at her guardian carefully. She decided to talk to the emperor to understand if everything was okay with him at the moment. Declan Stoffen has calmed down a bit. He sits next to the main character and studies her carefully. The emperor is trying to understand what is happening now and who this girl is, whose ghost suddenly appeared in the dining room. The mad monarch gathered his strength and asked the main character if she was the ghost of his dead sister, Chloe. He wants to come closer to the girl and hug her, but she protests against it. Chloe told Declan Stoffen not to come near her. It could have unforeseen consequences. The emperor was very upset about this and felt sick again. He decided to ask the main character directly why she was pushing him away and didn't want to hug him. After all, they were relatives who loved each other and hadn't seen each other for a long time. Chloe was very upset and said that she didn't mean to be rude to Declan Stoffen and push him away. But his contact with her could affect her stay here. No one can predict the consequences of this. But the mad emperor does not listen to the main character at all. He thinks that this is his dead sister and really wants to hug her after a long separation. The girl tries to resist this. And there is another important reason for this. Finally, she couldn't stand it any longer and confessed everything to her guardian. The girl firmly told Declan Stoffen that she was not his younger sister. The emperor had to know this because she didn't want to deceive him. Declan Stoffen listened attentively to his interlocutor and his heart stopped for a few moments. He had not expected such a turn of events. Now the mad emperor does not know what to think, do, or say. The main character decided to soften the blow a little and diffuse the situation. She said that she did not have the title of princess, so she corrected the emperor's speech. Declan Stoffen walked up to the ghostly girl and asked her if she had just told the truth about not being his younger sister. The main character was a little embarrassed and answered the puzzled monarch that the truth was somewhere in the middle. She could not understand whether she had done the right thing by opening up to Declan Stoffen. The mad emperor was very angry with the stranger, whom he considered his sister. He felt very bitter that he was so wrong about her. Declan Stoffen took his sword out of its sheath and put it to the throat of the main character, who was very scared. The ghost girl doesn't know what to do in this situation. She doesn't know if she can be hurt by the emperor's sword, but his anger can be dangerous. So the main character suggests that the monarch calm down and talk things over. Declan Stoffen looked at his interlocutor carefully and asked her who she was. The emperor cannot understand what is going on here. The ruler of the empire also asked the main character from what moment she took the place of his sister. He assumed that the substitution took place from the moment when the doll began to move and give signs to the emperor. Declan Stoffen started getting angry again. He asked the girl who had cast a magical curse on his favorite doll. The emperor demanded to immediately name the sorcerer who dared to do this to his beloved Chloe. The main character replied that she found herself in the body of the emperor's favorite doll against her will. It happened completely by accident, and she was not to blame for anything. The angry monarch listens attentively to his interlocutor. She added that she still wants to help Declan Stoffen, despite the current situation. The ghost girl pointed to the poisoned soup and said that she wanted to save her guardian. That's why he can now see her and communicate with her. Declan Stoffen can't understand what some soup has to do with it. He still hasn't realized that they wanted to poison him today, and he only survived thanks to the intercession of the main character. The Mad Emperor's interlocutor said that some poisonous substance was added to his soup today. If he doesn't believe her, he can check it out for himself and see for himself. Declan Stoffen asked the ghost girl why he should believe her. His loyal valet Noah always checks the food before serving it. The soup can't be poisoned. The emperor added that all the dishes here are made of silver. This helps determine whether there is poison in the dishes served. Declan Stoffen thinks he can figure out such situations himself. The main character listened carefully to her interlocutor and said that he could try this poisonous soup right now if he was so confident in himself. The girl was glad that the emperor's excessive self-confidence was shaken. She said that this time she would not interfere with the monarch. He could immediately take the deadly poison that was in the soup. Declan Stoffen walked over to the dining room windowsill and picked up a potted houseplant to test the effects of the poisoned soup on it. The main character watches the emperor's actions closely and does not interfere with him. The monarch took a plate with poisoned food and poured a few drops of soup into a plant pot using a spoon. The ghost girl and Declan Stoffen are closely monitoring what is happening to the flower that was watered with a deadly poison. A few seconds later, the leaves of the plant that had been exposed to the poisonous substance began to turn black and exude a dark-colored haze. Now the emperor could see for himself that the main character was right, and that she was trying to save his life. The ruler of the empire is shocked by what is happening now. He did not expect such a turn of events at all and does not know what to say now and how to act in the current situation. Declan Stoffen collected his thoughts a little and assumed that the ghostly stranger herself poisoned his breakfast, pursuing her own insidious goals. The Mad Emperor cannot understand how the main character knew that there was a deadly poison in the soup. Chloe was very angry with her guardian when she heard his accusations against her. She said that she expected gratitude from the Emperor, not reproaches. The main character could have done nothing, and Declan Stoffen would already be dead. The Mad Monarch does not believe his ghostly interlocutor. He asked how the girl knew about the poison in her food. The main character answered that she was simply endowed with this ability. She can recognize poisonous substances and see them. Declan Stoffen was completely confused by the situation. He told his interlocutor that he no longer understood anything about what was happening. The main character also covered her face with her hands. She sincerely sympathizes with her guardian and also experiences similar feelings. The situation is completely out of control and something needs to be done about it. This went on for a few seconds. Chloe and the Mad Emperor were in a state of prostration and did not know what to do now. Suddenly, the main character came up with a new idea. The girl turned to the ruler of the empire and said that she wanted to look at herself in the mirror. The emperor was very surprised by the ghostly girl's words, but he did not argue with her and allowed her to approach the mirror. Chloe looks in the mirror but does not see herself in it. There is only a reflection of Declan Stoffen and his favorite doll, which he holds in his arms. This greatly upsets the main character. The girl clearly realized that she was just a disembodied ghost that could disappear at any moment. This is very sad. She wants to become alive again and have a normal human body. Declan Stoffen was very surprised that his interlocutor did not know what she really looked like. It seemed that the girl was telling the truth. She accidentally ended up in the body of his favorite doll and did not wish the emperor any harm. The main character answered the monarch that she wanted to know what she looked like now, but unfortunately the mirror did not reflect her. This was very annoying for the girl, but the emperor decided to help his ward. He showed the girl his favorite doll and said that the main character was very similar to Chloe, but differed from her only in size and height. The main character looked closely at the doll she had been in all this time. Now the girl understands what her current appearance is like. Judging by everything, she looks pretty good now. Chloe continues to look at her guardian's favorite doll. Suddenly, she remembered that she played with similar toys as a child. Declan Stoffin's favorite doll reminded the main character of her doll, with which she spent most of her free time. The girl looks closely at the Emperor's doll and realizes that memories of her past life are beginning to take hold of her. Her past appears before the main character's eyes. It is a very strange feeling. The Emperor's ward clearly remembered her school, where she studied in the real world. It was a wonderful educational institution, which the girl liked very much. One day, the main character was returning home from elementary school, and a strange thing happened to her. The girl was happily eating ice cream and was walking home calmly, but suddenly she saw an unconscious old woman lying on the sidewalk. The well-mannered schoolgirl immediately realized that the unfortunate old woman needed urgent help and decided not to pass by her and to support her in difficult times. The girl brought the old woman to her senses and helped her get back on her feet. After that, the main character took her charge to the hospital, which is located near her educational institution. The unfortunate old woman was hospitalized for rehabilitation. From that day on, the girl often came to visit her ward together with her parents. One day, the girl came to the hospital to visit the old woman once again. But today, the main character was in for a pleasant surprise from her ward. The old woman gave the girl a wonderful doll. The woman handed her savior a gift and said that this beautiful doll was brought from Europe by her close friend. One day he bought it for his daughter, but it so happened that this toy ended up with an old lady. She stroked the surprised girl's head and said that this wonderful doll was very important to her. That's why the old woman wanted to give it to the girl who saved her life and did not remain indifferent in a difficult situation. The grandmother said that the main character should take care of this toy. If the girl and the doll are together, then a happy life awaits them and troubles are not scary for them at all. The main character promised the old woman that she will never part with this wonderful gift. Chloe thought that was enough of the memories of her past life for now. She stroked the blonde hair of Declan Stoffin's favorite doll and wondered if the gift from the rescued old lady and this toy were perhaps connected in some unknown way. The ghost girl's transparent fingers passed through the silky hair of the Emperor's favorite doll. Chloe realized that the secret of the two dolls held the answer to why the main character ended up in the body of Declan Stoffin's favorite toy. The main character continues to ponder this mystery. At this time, the ruler of the empire decided to distract the girl from her strange thoughts in order to immediately clarify something. Declan Stoffin rather rudely called out to Chloe. She did not like it. Chloe snapped out of her thoughts and looked in surprise at the ruler of the empire, who called her loudly to stop daydreaming. The girl asked Declan Stoffin to be more polite with her. The Mad Monarch still does not trust his interlocutor. He asked the girl if she did not like the appearance of his favorite doll. For this, you can get a severe punishment from the Emperor. The main character answered her guardian that she had not seen herself from the outside before because she was in the body of a doll. Now the girl knows what she looks like now. Declan Stoffin is a little puzzled by the girl's answer, because he can't understand what she's talking about. The Emperor doesn't admit that his doll isn't his little sister and is just a soulless toy. A few moments later, the monarch realized that the doll's limbs were actually being moved by the ghostly girl who is now standing in front of him. He asked the protagonist why she had recently hit him in the face. Chloe looks at her guardian happily. She is pleased that the Emperor has now understood everything. Perhaps he will no longer be angry with the ghost girl and will pull himself together. The main character tried to touch Declan Stoffin's hand and asked if everything was okay with him now. Because it seemed to the girl that her guardian was very upset about something. The Emperor is silent. He hugs his favorite doll even tighter to himself. The main character watches him closely and begins to guess why the monarch feels bad now. Declan Stoffin went to his room to rest a bit and think about what had happened today. He sat down on his bed and placed his favorite doll next to him. The Emperor came to his senses a little and said that he had been a real idiot. He thought that his little sister had returned and had taken over the body of this little doll. But it turned out that it was not so at all. The ghostly girl watches her guardian closely. She feels sorry for the unfortunate Emperor who has just realized his mistake. He is in great pain now. His mental wounds have opened up again. The main character understands that Declan Stoffin is now having a very hard time realizing and accepting that for many years he was obsessed not with the incarnation of his younger sister, but only with a soulless artificial doll. Chloe thinks about her guardian and his current psychological state. The girl tries to understand whether the unfortunate aristocrat has any last hope for saving his soul. wandering in the darkness of illusions. The main character doubts the correctness of her actions today. Maybe she should have lied to the Mad Monarch today and said that she is the ghost of his younger sister. Chloe looked at the grief-stricken emperor again and realized that she had done the right thing today. The girl's lie could have been an even more cruel punishment for Declan Stoffen. The main character turned to the unfortunate monarch to distract him from his dark thoughts. The emperor looked at the girl with a cruel and absent gaze. The ghost girl decided to do everything to calm her guardian down. She said that she knew his younger sister and had once been very close friends with her. The main character smiled and said that she knew the little princess very well and could tell the unfortunate emperor a lot about her if he wanted. After these words, the ghostly girl tried to stroke Declan Stoffen's hand with her transparent hand. But she noticed that the emperor was trembling for some reason. Perhaps anger was boiling up inside him again. The main character hugged the beloved doll of the Mad Monarch and said that she will always help him and act on his side, no matter what happens in the future. The girl hopes that this will be able to console her guardian. Suddenly, a stingy man's tear runs down Declan Stoffen's cheek. He cries and says that he has finally come to terms with the loss of his little sister. She is no longer in this world, but then he has no reason to live either. The main character looked closely at the unfortunate monarch who had lost the meaning of life. She was a little scared when she heard from the emperor that he no longer saw the meaning of his existence. The ghostly girl leaned towards her guardian and looked him in the eye. She told the unfortunate emperor that his younger sister had asked her to take care of him with all her might. The main character smiled and added that Declan Stoffen had no more reasons to cry. He needed to calm down immediately and collect his thoughts in order to think about how to live on. After that, Chloe confidently said that she would be able to take care of her guardian in any situation. The emperor could always count on the support of the ghost girl, but the unfortunate monarch, who is now in a depressed state, was not at all inspired by the main character's conversations. He doubts that the ghostly girl will be able to help him in difficult situations. Chloe was very upset that Declan Stoffen was not confident in her powers and abilities. She reminded the emperor that she had saved him from a painful and quick death today. The monarch agreed with his interlocutor and decided to find out who had put poison in his food. The emperor asked his ward to tell him who had attempted to assassinate him, but the girl replied that she did not have divine powers and could not know. Declan Stoffen said it would be nice if the ghost girl had that kind of knowledge. In that case, he would never let Chloe go. The emperor invited Noah's valet and Mason Buckle into his office. He told them the story of the poisoned soup. The main character is also present at this conversation, but only Declan Stoffen can see her. The angry monarch ordered a thorough investigation of this outrageous crime and to find the conspirator at any cost. Noah's valet reported that he had managed to test the soup on mice. It was indeed poisonous. All the mice that ate the poisoned soup died instantly. The emperor's faithful servant Noah smiled and said that he would do everything in his power to sort out this matter and find the criminal who attempted to take the life of his master. Declan Stoffen paused for a moment and asked his confidants if they noticed anyone else in the office. This greatly surprised and puzzled Noah and Mason Buckle. The emperor's loyal servants thought that his illness had worsened again and that he was hallucinating and seeing non-existent people again. But Declan Stoffen simply wants to check whether his servants noticed the ghostly girl who is standing next to them in the study and watching them. The ruler of the empire looked closely at the reaction of his subjects and realized that they could not see the main character. This suited Declan Stoffen, and he changed the subject. Watching all this, Chloe was very upset that only the emperor could see her. She wanted to communicate with other people, but so far this is not available to her. Declan Stoffen noticed that his charge was upset about something, but the girl quickly pulled herself together and thought that now she could communicate with at least one person. This was also not bad and better than before. Mason Buckle asked his master if he had any suspects that could be questioned to move the investigation forward. Declan Stoffen told his subjects that there were many enemies of the empire around, so there could be several suspects. Noah the valet and the minister again thought that the monarch was becoming paranoid. The monarch's loyal servant Noah said that he had some ideas about who might have ordered the murder. Perhaps the criminal was Duke Othen. The main character listens attentively to the valet and tries to remember who this Duke Othen is, who could have ordered the murder of Declan Stoffen. Chloe tries to remember the plotline of her favorite novel that she read in real life and in which she was reborn, in order to understand who Duke Othan is in this world. The ghost girl remembers that there was such a character in the novel. but she can't remember exactly who it is. A few moments later, Chloe remembered the character. He was an excellent archer, and he was possibly the killer of Declan Stoffin's little sister. The main character looked closely at the Emperor to gauge his reaction to the mention of Duca 10. When Declan Stoffin heard that name, he instantly became darker than a thundercloud. He gripped the arms of the chair he was sitting on tightly. This is how the anger of a monarch manifests itself, which he is trying to contain with all his might. The ghost girl watches her guardian closely. She has never seen him in such a furious state. The scariest thing is that this fury finds no outlet and can be unpredictable. Suddenly, the valet Noah said loudly that he would definitely find out who the real criminal was who wanted to kill the Emperor. Declan Stoffin got a grip on his emotions. He smiled and said with irony in his voice that he doubted very much the success of Noah's valet's intentions. Mason Buckle said that the magical properties of silver somehow failed to detect the poison in the food served to the Emperor. Now we need to figure out how to detect poison in the future. Declan Stoffin replied to his loyal friend and minister that he had an old and proven method for this, so there was no need to worry about it. The main character looked at the monarch, who mentioned a proven method for identifying various poisons, and she became scared. The girl guesses what this method is. Chloe realized that Declan Stoffin planned to use it to test his food for poisons in the future. This surprised the girl a little. Mason Buckle looked at his master attentively and asked what method of testing food for poisons he had in mind. The minister also inquired how the Emperor knew that his breakfast was poisoned. Declan Stoffin listened to his friend and thought about what to say. He thinks that Mason Buckle doesn't need to know about the ghost girl who can sense poisons yet. Suddenly, the Emperor decided to test his friend's reaction to his words again. He told the minister and the valet that he had been helped by his younger sister's friend. This girl had saved Declan Stoffin from certain death. The main character looks at her guardian in surprise and does not believe what is happening now. Declan Stoffin decided to tell his friends about her existence. Noah the valet and Mason Buckle the minister listen to their emperor and do not believe his words. They think that Declan Stoffin has had another hallucination. He is delirious again. Mason Buckle decided to ask the Lord who his younger sister's friend was, and whether she could be trusted with the emperor's life. Perhaps Declan Stoffin was talking about a living person, and not a ghost from his visions. The Emperor replied that he did not know for sure whether this girl could be trusted. But the valet Noah began to ask Declan Stoffin very persistently about the main character. Chloe did not like this at all. The valet's persistent questioning began to arouse vague suspicions in the ruler of the empire. He told Noah that he would deal with the matter himself and that the servant should not be overzealous. Mason Buckle stood up for Noah's valet. He said that everyone at court considered the emperor a cruel tyrant and that there were many who wanted to destroy him. Therefore, the ruler's friends should know how his food would be tested for poisonous substances. Declan Stoffin listened carefully to his friends and replied that they were right about only one thing. When the emperor ascended the throne, his fate was already decided, and he would have to fight many enemies, envious people, and ill-wishers. The younger prince's path to the pinnacle of power was accompanied by the murder of his older brother and father. This path is stained with imperial blood, so Declan Stoffin must expect a fair retribution for his actions. And it will definitely happen, sooner or later. The main character guessed what her guardian was thinking. She thought that Declan Stoffin was able to step over the blood of his relatives when ascending to the throne. Probably, now the emperor suffers greatly from this, and this is one of the reasons for his madness. The ghostly girl looked closely at Declan Stoffin, and again she felt pity for this unfortunate man who was wandering in the dark world of his fears, illusions, and delusions. Chloe tries to understand the true motives of the emperor's behavior, but the girl cannot grasp the full meaning of his terrible actions towards his confidants and subjects. Perhaps this is revenge not only on those around him, but also on himself for the pain he has experienced. Declan Stoffin thought for a moment and said that too many people in the empire wanted him dead. Therefore, he must always be prepared for a new battle and betrayal from those around him. His sword is always sharpened and awaits the right moment to strike down his enemies. Mason Buckle listened carefully to his master and said that open enemies must be executed, but their presence should make the emperor think about his state policy. Perhaps it should be changed and stop being a tyrant who is doomed to perish. The main character thought that the minister was absolutely right. The ghost girl also knows that the emperor actually loves people. Therefore, it is vital for him to become softer and fairer towards his subjects. Declan Stoffen listened to his minister and laughed. The emperor said that everyone unfairly considered him a merciless and cruel tyrant, because he could not even kill his dog for the misdeeds it sometimes committed. Noah the valet and Mason Buckle averted their eyes when they heard their master's words. They disagree with the master of the empire, but they do not want to argue with him anymore, so as not to incur his wrath. The main character looks closely at her guardian and his subordinates. Everything that is happening now seems very strange to the ghost girl. She cannot understand what it all means. A warm summer night has come. Numerous stars have dotted the dark sky. The imperial palace has fallen silent. All its inhabitants, except for the guards, are already fast asleep. Only the main character is awake. Restless thoughts and many urgent questions overwhelm the ghostly girl. She can no longer tolerate her ignorance, so she decides to wake up the sleeping emperor and ask him about everything. Declan Stoffen is not happy that his little sister's friend woke him up. He said he was sleepy and not in the mood for conversation at the moment, but the girl insists and continues to wake her guardian. The main character said that she wanted to ask the emperor about very important things. She couldn't wait until the morning. So the girl decided to talk to her guardian right now. Declan Stoffen realized that the ghost girl was serious and would not let him sleep with her questions. He rolled over without getting out of bed and said that Chloe could ask whatever she was interested in at the moment. The main character was glad that the emperor agreed to talk and asked him about Duke Oten. The ghost girl is very interested in why Declan Stoffen spared the life of this aristocrat, who is his enemy. Chloe also hinted to the ruler of the empire about today's comparison of the Duke of Autun to a dog that he cannot kill. The main character wants to know what all this means. Declan Stoffen thought about it. He does not know how to explain the current situation to his ward. The emperor tried to find a suitable answer for the ghost girl, but came to the conclusion that she did not need to know about Duke Oten. The main character was very surprised and upset by this. The ghost girl is not going to give up. She said that Duke Othen killed the emperor's younger sister, but he is still alive. The main character does not understand why this happened and demands an answer from Declan Stoffen. The ruler of the empire listened attentively to his ward and rose from his bed. He grabbed his head, which had suddenly begun to ache, and said that he had spared the Duke for his own sake. But the main character does not calm down. She continues to insist on her own, saying that today the emperor almost died. Is it possible to leave such a dangerous enemy as Duke Oten alive? Declan Stoffen began to get angry at his interlocutor for her questions that he wanted to leave unanswered. The emperor's chin began to tremble with anger. Another moment and the ruler of the empire would show his anger. The guardian of the main character restrained his anger with a great effort of will and turned to the ghostly girl. He asked her if she could fix the situation if she knew the whole truth about Duke Oten. Declan Stoffen added that even he can't do anything about the treacherous Duke, so he doubts that the ghost girl will be able to help in this situation. The main character withstood the emperor's pressure and answered him that she was obliged to protect him at the request of the little princess. Therefore, she must try all possible ways to achieve her goal. The ghost girl added that she simply wanted to help Declan Stoffen. These words somewhat calmed the mad emperor and pacified his anger. The guardian of the main character tries to understand how serious his ward's words are. Chloe said that she must have all the information available to do something and qualitatively change the current situation. This puzzled the emperor. He thinks about his answer. Declan Stoffen decided to tell everything to the ghostly girl, who was gaining more and more trust in him. The emperor said that the state had an important law of mana from heaven for a long time. One day, the first emperor of the state approved this law, which states that a person who has made a huge contribution to the development of the empire cannot be executed or punished in any other way. This can only be done if such a person is convicted of treason. Only 3 people have been granted the law of mana from heaven. These are the Marquis of Berkeley, the Duke of Othan, and the Duke of Custer. They are completely immune to punishment from the state authorities. Duke Othan was very close to Declan Stoffen's father when he was emperor. Then the Duke made sure that he had state immunity. Now the guardian of the main character is powerless before the law of heavenly mana and the Duke who is protected by it. There came a time when Duke Othan joined forces with Declan Stoffen's brother, Sion. This union was marked by the fact that many nobles who stood in their way of power fell at the hands of the Duke and Prince. Duke Othan was always distinguished by his unparalleled cruelty. He did not care who he killed. It could be not only adult nobles, but also their children. He felt his impunity and took full advantage of it. Declan Stauffen ended his story by reminding the ghostly girl once again of the power of the law of mana from heaven. As long as this provision was in effect, no one would be able to harm the Duke. The main character was very interested in this story, and Duke Oten. In the morning, the Emperor decided to show the ghostly girl the hero of his sad story so that she could see everything for herself. Declan Stauffen and Chloe, accompanied by their valet Noah, entered the throne room to meet with Duke Othan, who was visiting the imperial palace. The main character immediately paid attention to the guest, about whom she had already managed to learn a lot. This should be a very interesting meeting, which can change the further course of this story. The ghostly girl looked at Duke Othan carefully. She was a little surprised, looking at this aristocrat. He seemed too smug and arrogant to her. The throne room is filled with aristocrats from all corners of the empire. Declan Stauffen has taken his place on the throne. The main character stands next to him and carefully watches the guests present here. The emperor looked at his ward, who was standing near his throne. No one can see the ghostly girl except him. But she too must feel comfortable during the state meeting, which could drag on. Declan Stauffen is too well-bred, and as a true aristocrat, he cannot accept that the lady stood while he sat calmly on his throne. The emperor thought for a moment and immediately ordered his valet to bring another chair and place it next to the imperial throne. This greatly surprised not only the main character, but also everyone present in the hall. The valet Noah bowed politely to his master and looked at him puzzled. After that, the servant said that he would do everything in the blink of an eye. Duke Othan noticed the valet's confusion. He was pleased with what was happening, thinking that Declan Stauffen had finally gone mad and was seating his imaginary friends next to him. The main character looked reproachfully at her guardian and said that he shouldn't have worried about her because she was a ghost and didn't have a physical body. Chloe decided to show the emperor that she couldn't even sit on the chair that Noah's valet had helpfully brought. The ghostly girl simply fell through the chair. The emperor realized his mistake and apologized to his ward for his stupidity. Duke Othan decided not to miss the opportunity to damage the emperor's reputation. He asked Declan Stauffen if he had just spoken to someone invisible or if he had imagined it. Chloe decided not to interfere in this conflict for now. The ghost girl turned to her guardian and told him not to talk to her in front of other people. They can't see her, so it all seems very strange from the outside. The overlord agreed with Chloe's arguments, but Duke Othan does not want to stop at his success. He continues to ask provocative questions to the emperor, trying to make him look like a complete psychopath. The main character had already managed to make sure that the Duke hated Declan Stauffen and would do everything to harm him in any way possible. This made Chloe very angry, but the experienced emperor was not at a loss in the current situation. He smiled and asked the Duke since when he was so interested in the actions of Declan Stauffen. Duke Othan immediately decided to parry the blow of the ruler and said that he was a statesman who was very concerned about everything that concerned the emperor and his dominions. After this answer, the Duke turned to all the aristocrats present in the throne room and asked them if he was right about himself. This is a rather insidious trick, but this provocation against the emperor did not have the expected success. The nobles did not respond to Duke Oten because they are neutral. This applies especially to Duke Custer and Duke Berkeley. The main character carefully studies the aristocrats gathered in the throne room. She is very angry at the nobles because they do not try to stop the hostile Duke. The ghost girl understands that Declan Stauffen has enormous power in his hands. Many aristocrats fear him and will not dare to openly oppose him. The emperor decided to defuse the tense situation that had now developed. He said that the family of Duke Otten was indeed a very important part of the empire and provided all possible support to the state. Declan Stauffen decided to play this game to the end. He said that he was aware of the Oten family's devotion to the emperor, which was truly admirable and worthy of all praise. The hostile Duke basked in his master's praise, but the mad emperor is not as simple as he might seem at first glance. Declan Stauffen ends his speech by reminding Duke Othen of his place in the state hierarchy. He is a subordinate of the ruler of the empire. If the Duke has forgotten his place, he will have to be disposed of immediately. Declan Stauffen's eyes are burning with hellish rage and hatred for the Duke. He said that a dog that bites the hand that feeds it must be killed immediately, and no law or anything else will stop it. But Duke Othen takes this blow with dignity. He simply smiles and listens attentively to Declan, who said that he knows all the treacherous plans of his subordinate. The time had come for the hostile Duke to respond. This hypocrite put on a mask of complete innocence and said that the Emperor was mistaken about his intentions. All this could be discussed at once in the presence of the assembled nobles. The main character watches Duke Othen and is very angry with him. This aristocrat is very dangerous and almost invulnerable. Declan said that at the moment he does not have good grounds for arresting the Duke. Therefore, he suggested considering other state matters today. The Emperor looked wearily at his subordinates and said that he wanted to discuss the upcoming war with the hostile Kingdom of Yellow today. This issue was the most important for the Empire today. The main character listens attentively to her guardian and is surprised again by his words. Is it possible that he is now only interested in the war with the neighboring state? This is equivalent to death in the current situation. Duke Othen also did not expect such a turn of events. This aristocrat now has completely different plans, which do not include participation in a bloody and senseless war. The other nobles present in the throne room are also confused by the Emperor's question about the upcoming war. Everyone thought that Declan would change his mind about this. The Emperor sits thoughtfully on his throne and waits for the reaction of his subordinates. Suddenly, one of the members of the State Council exclaims that he will not allow a new war under any circumstances. This brave and wise nobleman turned out to be Mason Buckle's father, who looks very similar to him. He is a desperate opponent of the insane war with the State of Yellow. The brave Duke has declared his strong protest against the war. He has always supported Declan as his son. But this time the Emperor must be stopped from acting rashly. A new global bloodbath will only weaken the Empire and finally destroy the legitimacy of Declan. This will benefit the enemies of the imperial power. All the friends of the ruler will also suffer. So thinks the Duke of Buckle. The main character supports Mason Buckle's father. The Ghost Girl understands that Declan wants to start a new armed conflict, only to forget about his sorrows and fears in the heat of bloody battles, and perhaps find an end to his suffering there. The Emperor replied to Duke Buccleuch that he wanted to bring the inhabitants of the entire continent to their knees, so no one would be able to avoid war. Duke Othen intervened in the conversation. He said that the people of the Empire would be against this next bloodshed. Everyone longed for peace and prosperity. All the aristocrats present also expressed their protest against a new war. They do not want to waste their money on a senseless armed conflict that is doomed to failure. Duke Othen is very glad that the aristocrats have supported him at this moment. He is glad that Declan is now in conflict with the nobles who may rebel against him. But the Emperor is deep in his own thoughts, which are very far from this gathering of nobles. Declan answered the aristocrats that he does not need their money and resources. He believes that the nobles should set an example, and there is another way to do this. The ruler of the Empire wants every noble family to send one of its members to the front. This will be a fine example of loyalty to the Emperor and the state. Duke Othen listened to the Lord and said that the aristocrats do not want to send their children to a bloody war. They must save their sons for the sake of the future of their families. Declan smiled at the hostile Duke and said that it was not his wish, but a law that had been approved by the previous Emperor, especially since the Duke of Othen's son had already died in the war. Such are the rules for all aristocrats who are loyal to the Empire and the crown. Duke Othen does not know what to answer his master. Declan is absolutely right. This is the law, and all the aristocrats of the state must obey it. The ruler of the Empire ordered Lord Castor to prepare to leave for the front immediately. The unfortunate nobleman realized that he should not argue with his master and agreed with him. The main character is watching the meeting of the State Council and her guardian. Suddenly, the ghostly girl noticed that some dark haze began to envelop her. Chloe fears that this dark smoke may not bode well for her. The girl understands that she must do something urgently to avoid the sad consequences of the influence of the black haze. The main character tried to call Declan for help to disperse this black smoke, which was becoming thicker. But it was not successful. The Emperor heard the ghostly girl calling him and turned to her. But something completely unexpected and amazing happened. Declan expected to see his little sister's friend, but instead he saw only a small glow. The ghostly girl was gone, as if she had never existed. Surprised and confused, the ruler of the Empire rose from his throne to look for the ghostly girl. But all was in vain. Chloe had disappeared somewhere, leaving no trace. The nobles present in the throne room are watching their master closely as he searches for someone invisible. This has once again alerted the nobles and brought back thoughts of Declan Stauffen's progressive madness to their minds. The Emperor's favorite doll sits in its place next to the throne. Now it has once again become a vessel for the protagonist's disembodied ghost, which has returned to her small body. Declan Stauffen continues to search for the ghostly girl. He calls her name loudly. Mason Buckle notices this and asks the Mad Emperor what happened to him. The ruler of the empire, who had just been thinking about a new war with a neighboring state, now looked confused. He asked his minister where Chloe had disappeared to. The nobles who are present at the state assembly are agitated by Declan Stauffen's inappropriate behavior. They cannot understand what is happening here. All this is beginning to resemble some kind of theater of the absurd. Just now, the emperor was engaged in important state affairs, but a moment later, he had an attack. The nobles are confused and do not know what to do. Suddenly, the voice of the main character was heard in the throne room. She told her guardian that she was next to him and he did not need to worry. This voice was also heard by all the aristocrats present here. They were very surprised. Duke Othan also heard the voice of the ghostly girl. It seemed very strange to him, and he is trying to understand what is happening here. Declan Stauffen listened to the voice of his ward. It calmed him down a little. After that, the emperor went to his favorite doll. The Mad Emperor approached his favorite toy, which was sitting next to his throne, and extended his hand to it. The doll responded in the voice of the main character, that she saw her guardian and that he was reaching out to her at that moment. Declan Stauffen looks closely at his favorite doll and begins to realize that the ghost girl's consciousness is now within the toy. The ruler of the empire carefully took the doll in his arms and announced to all the aristocrats present that the state assembly was over for today. All the aristocrats could go to their homes. Duke Othan looks at the Mad Emperor and smiles. He is quite pleased that Declan Stauffen has once again presented himself in a less than favorable light to the imperial nobility. The main character was very upset that she had let her master down and had disappeared from his sight so suddenly. But the emperor was not angry with her and said that they now needed to return to their room. Declan Stauffen approached his valet and told him to keep an eye on the emperor's chambers and not let anyone in without his permission. Noah replied that he would do everything. The Mad Emperor left the throne room and headed to his chambers to rest after the difficult meeting of the aristocracy, and also to communicate with his ward. The nobles watched Declan Stauffen and sat in the throne room, completely bewildered. They could not understand what was really happening to the emperor. Everyone who attended today's state council noted that they heard a strange girl's voice, which is very similar to the voice of the little princess. Noah, the valet, thinks about this incident, and it seems to him that he also heard this mysterious voice. Mason Buckle addressed all the nobles present and asked them to speak more respectfully of the emperor during his absence. Those who disobeyed this might have big problems in the future. Almost all the aristocrats realized that Mason Buckle was not going to joke with them and was quite serious, so they decided to stop discussing Declan Stauffen's behavior. Only Duke Othan decided to argue with the first minister of the empire. He asked Mason Buckle if he was not concerned about the state and mental health of the emperor. The first minister of the empire looked the hostile duke in the eye. But Lord Othan continued to smile at his interlocutor, waiting for an answer. This slightly embarrassed Mason Buckle. After this, Duke Othan turned to the other nobles and said that he was concerned about Declan Stauffen's mental state. He felt that it had become much worse recently. One of the aristocrats agreed with the arguments of the wily duke and said that the emperor's condition had recently left much to be desired. He did not know what to do with it now and how to think about it. Duke Othan told the nobles that the ruler of the empire has no right to show weakness. It could ruin the entire state and its subjects, who deserve a better ruler. After these words, the treacherous lord looked at the imperial throne and felt an uncontrollable fit of envy towards Declan Stauffen. This hypocritical duke also dreams of the title of ruler of the empire. For this, he is ready to do anything. Duke Othan addressed all the members of the state council present again and said that urgent measures had to be taken in the current situation. And everyone knew the answer to the question of what exactly had to be done. All the nobles pondered the words of the treacherous duke who had planned a coup d'etat. But no one answered Lord Othan. A deathly silence reigned in the throne room. The emperor's traitor smiles. He is quite pleased with the effect his words have had on the nobles. No one contradicts him. So they too are one step away from agreeing to a coup d'etat. Mason Buckle listened attentively to Duke Othan. The first minister of the empire was speechless from what he had just heard. He was very angry with the treacherous lord. Declan Stoffen returned to his chambers with the main character. He sat his favorite doll on the sofa and asked her what happened to her in the throne room. The ghostly girl replied that she herself did not understand anything. The main character added that she suddenly felt dizzy and had an unexpected attack of nausea. Then a dark haze appeared, and the ghostly girl again found herself in the doll's body. Chloe is very upset that her consciousness is in the doll's body again. Previously, she was happy that she received relative freedom, but now the main character is again imprisoned. Declan Stoffen listened carefully to his interlocutor and said that now everything was much better, because they could communicate freely. This was not the case before. This was already a good start. The Emperor added that Chloe might now be able to move. This needed to be checked immediately. The main character thought about her guardian's words and tried to move her hand. The ghost girl was successful in this too. She was able to move her hand easily, although she had almost never been able to do this before. Chloe was very surprised by this unexpected circumstance. Declan Stoffen is very pleased that his charge has started to move and can move fully. He suggested that the ghostly girl move her head. The main character grabbed the Emperor's hand and asked if the other aristocrats present in the throne room had seen her movements. Declan Stoffen replied that he did not know. Suddenly, Chloe pulled away from her guardian. She remembered that before she returned to her doll body, she had seen the same deadly smoke that had told her that Declan Stoffen was being poisoned. The main character understands that the Emperor is in mortal danger, but she still can't do anything about it. This upsets Chloe very much. She bursts into tears. Now the girl fears that the citizens of the Empire will consider her a cursed doll that has bewitched their Emperor. So they will find her and throw her into the fire to get rid of this strange and dangerous creature. Declan Stoffen listened attentively to his charge. He smiles and does not see any threat to Chloe from the townsfolk. The Emperor hastened to calm the girl down, but the main character only became even more angry at Declan Stoffen for not fully understanding the seriousness of the situation. They are both in mortal danger. When Chloe calmed down a little, she looked at her guardian to understand what he was feeling now. But the Emperor's reaction surprised the girl very much. She did not expect such a turn of events. Declan Stoffen sits quietly on the couch next to the main character and laughs heartily. The girl has never seen the Emperor so cheerful and happy. Chloe had recovered a little from the stress she had experienced and thought that Declan Stoffen had begun to change for the better. Now he remembered what it was like to laugh sincerely and carefree. At this moment, the Emperor seemed to the main character to be a very sweet and good-natured person who is not capable of bad and cruel actions. The girl experiences strange and contradictory feelings towards her guardian. Suddenly, Chloe and Declan Stoffen heard the voices of Noah's valet and the Empire's first minister, Mason Buckle. They were at the entrance to the imperial chambers, looking at their master in surprise. Mason Buckle is very worried about something. He looks at Declan Stoffen and asks him with concern in his voice who he was talking to. After all, there is no one in the room except the Emperor and his doll. Noah the valet is at the feet of the first minister of the Empire, who holds him by the collar of his jacket. The loyal servant of the Emperor asked his forgiveness for not being able to restrain Mason Buckle and allowing him to burst into the imperial chambers without permission. Declan Stoffen and the main character look closely at the men who entered the Emperor's chambers without his permission. The first minister of the Empire asked his master again who he was talking to. Mason Buckle added that if there was anyone else in the room that he couldn't see, he had to know about it. It was very important in the current situation. And it couldn't wait. Declan Stoffen listened to his first minister and said he had just spoken to his favorite doll, Chloe. He didn't understand why Mason Buckle was so upset. The main character understands that her guardian is making fun of his first minister a little. By telling the truth so frankly, he is simply bringing the situation to the point of absurdity. Declan Stoffen's loyal servant said he had come to discuss with him what had happened today during the State Council. It was very important for the Empire and the future fate of the Emperor. The Emperor of the Empire looked at Noah's valet and let him say whatever he wanted. This is already getting a little interesting for Declan Stoffen. The servants are starting to talk about state affairs. Noah the valet plucked up his courage and said that he had seen with his own eyes how the Emperor's favorite doll moved its hands during the state meeting today. Declan Stoffen did not try to dissuade his faithful servant from what he had seen and said that he was right. Chloe really could move. This greatly excited the valet and the first minister. The emperor added that there were no madmen in this room. His favorite doll moved and talked today, and there was nothing strange, secret, or surprising about it. For a few moments, there was silence in the imperial chambers. Noah the valet and Mason Buckle stood there in amazement. They could not believe what the emperor had just told them. The valet was the first to come to his senses and come out of shock. He grabbed his head and thanked his master for simply trying to calm him down and prove to him that he was not crazy. Declan Stoffin's loyal servant thinks he's gone mad after seeing the emperor's favorite doll move on its own today. He believes he can no longer serve his master as he once did. The emperor began to get annoyed with the valet's behavior and his misjudgment of the situation. Declan Stoffin told Noah that if he did not shut up immediately, he would hang him upside down on the wall of his palace. The servant heard his master's threat and decided to immediately stop his useless and annoying lamentations, showing the emperor that he was shutting his mouth. Now, Mason Buckle intervened. He said that he too had heard Chloe's voice and seen her move on her own. Perhaps the prime minister had gone mad, like the emperor's valet. Declan Stoffin's loyal friend added that two people couldn't have imagined the same thing at the same time. So Chloe really can move and talk. The emperor looks at his subordinates and thinks about how to explain everything to them so that they will believe him. The emperor of the empire told his servants that the body of his favorite doll now contains the consciousness of his younger sister's friend. This has left Noah and Mason Buckle confused. They don't know what to say now. The prime minister thought about his master's words and said that this was a very improbable story that made no sense. It was almost impossible for a sensible person to believe in all this. Then Mason Buckle collected his thoughts and said loudly that the emperor's favorite doll was cursed or enchanted. It could harm or destroy Declan Stoffin. The main character was very scared and upset when she heard the words of the first minister of the empire. Chloe was always afraid of being burned in hellfire by an angry crowd that considers her a fiend of hell. Declan Stoffin calmly replied to his minister that he had thought the same at first. But later he had the opportunity to see for himself that Chloe was his true friend. The emperor looked at the main character and said that it was she who saved him from certain death during the poisoned breakfast. This is worthy of gratitude. After these words, Declan Stoffin looked piercingly at his subordinates and asked them if they believed him now. Noah the valet and the first minister of the empire froze in bewilderment. They still did not believe what the emperor had told them. The valet was once again the first to speak his mind. He turned to his master and said that in gratitude for saving him, he would believe everything Declan Stoffin said. After these words, the emperor's faithful servant pointed with his hand at his favorite doll and added that he would destroy it if it threatened the safety of Declan Stoffin. The main character was a little angry at Noah's valet for such words towards her. But the girl also liked that the emperor's loyal servant cared about him so much. Declan Stoffin asked his charge to move so that his servants would believe his words. Mason Buckle and Noah froze in anticipation of what was about to happen. The main character decided to fulfill her guardian's request. The girl prepared to make a few movements. She was also tired of the emperor's servants still not believing him. Chloe made a few movements and greeted Declan Stoffin's friends. This shocked Noah's valet and Mason Buckle. Could it be that the emperor was right? His favorite doll could talk and move. The main character decided to get off the couch to get closer to the emperor's friends. But suddenly, Declan Stoffin's favorite doll lost its balance and fell to the floor. The Empire Lord laughed heartily again. He wasn't too worried about Chloe's condition because the doll's body was strong enough to fall from such a small height. Declan Stoffin was even more amused by the reaction of his subordinates when they were convinced that Chloe was a living being and not a soulless toy. The Emperor decided to put an end to this comic performance and bent down to pick up his favorite doll and place it back on the sofa, or on its feet. The first minister of the empire grabbed his head and said that if all this was true, then Declan Stoffin could now have big problems with the local nobility. Because the aristocrats who were present at the state council also saw the talking doll, and they would gossip about it. The ruler of the empire immediately became very serious. He said that the local aristocracy had always been known for its cowardice and weakness. These pathetic nobles would not dare to gossip about the emperor and what happened in the throne room. Declan Stoffin thought for a moment and added that the first minister of the empire was right. All possible measures must be taken to prevent the aristocrats from spreading their lying tongues. The main character listens attentively to the emperor. She fears that Declan Stoffin may again commit some cruel act against his subjects. And the girl does not want to be the reason for this. At this time, a very interesting conversation is taking place in the office of Duke O10, which may have important consequences for the future of the main character and her guardian. The rebellious lord is talking to one of the aristocrats who is present at the state council. Lord Othan's interlocutor scolds him for daring to argue with the emperor and nearly giving away himself and the other conspirators who want to overthrow Declan. The duke tries to justify himself. Lord Othan was silent for a moment and then said that he should have killed Declan along with his younger sister during the famous hunt. Several years have passed, and power is still far from the rebellious duke. The duke's interlocutor said that he could not get out of his head the fact that the mad emperor treated his doll as if it were a living person. These words interested Duke Otten. The rebel lord laughed heartily and said that the mad ruler of the empire was now talking not only to his favorite doll, but also to himself. This was very noticeable during the state meeting. This is very beneficial for Duke Othen. He thought for a moment and said that Declan's favorite toy seemed very strange and suspicious to him. Perhaps it would be necessary to conduct a thorough investigation into it in order to obtain more useful and truthful information and use it in the future. The action takes place again in Declan's chambers. The main character and her guardian are lying on the bed. The emperor is already fast asleep, but Chloe can't fall asleep. She is overcome by disturbing thoughts. The girl cannot get used to being alone at night when the emperor is peacefully resting and dreams of his beloved sister. At such time of day, the main character cannot fall asleep and becomes sad and bored. Chloe realizes that she now has a lot of time to think, so she decides to think about how to get Declan back into good standing. Suddenly, the emperor stirred in his sleep and said the name of his younger sister. The main character guessed that Declan was dreaming of his dead relative, whom he loved very much. The girl looked closely at the ruler of the empire, who was having a disturbing dream. She assumed that the emperor was now having one of those ordinary nightmares that had been tormenting him at night for a long time. The main character looked closely at Declan's face and noticed that it was covered in tears. The unhappy emperor, who misses his younger sister, cries in his sleep. It is a very sad sight. Chloe felt a renewed sense of pity for the poor ruler of the empire, who was suffering great mental anguish. The girl decided to stroke her guardian's head to calm him down a little. The main character gently strokes the hair of her powerful guardian, who now looks so helpless. Although during the state council, Declan threw thunder and lightning at his subordinates who were against a new war with a neighboring state. Suddenly, the emperor, who had been sleeping very lightly, woke up and grabbed his charge by the hand. Declan was not yet fully awake, and all his movements were automatic. The main character was a little scared because she did not expect such behavior from the emperor. It seemed to the girl that he grabbed her hand too quickly and too hard. But Declan is innocent. The mad emperor has another nightmare in which he loses his beloved sister again. The emperor looks at Chloe with a clouded gaze and holds her hand. Declan slowly began to come to his senses. The emperor regained consciousness and asked his ward what she had just done to his forehead. The girl replied that she had simply stroked her guardian to comfort him during a nightmare. The main character asked the emperor if she had accidentally hurt him. The girl is afraid that she might have inadvertently caused Declan additional pain, but the ruler of the empire did not answer his new friend. He took her hand again and fell asleep instantly. This surprised Chloe very much, because she thought that Declan would be angry with her for her excessive liberties. The unfortunate emperor quietly whispered some indistinct words in his sleep. The main character carefully watches her guardian and guards his sensitive and anxious sleep. Declan dreams that he is in a bright green meadow which is abundantly flooded with sunlight. The young emperor happily bites into a piece of a juicy apple and enjoys its magnificent taste. The guardian of the main character sits under a mighty tree which is warmed by the sun. He feels great. He has a lot of strength and nothing bothers him. Only the sunlight warms his young body and fills it with energy. Declan says all these words out loud during his sleep. The main character realized that the emperor began to rave again. This scared the girl a little. She is very worried about her guardian. The emperor continues to rave. He imagines that he is holding the hand of his ward and that a weak but very pleasant warmth is emanating from it too. Declan suddenly woke up and sat up in his bed. He asked the main character if she had touched his forehead yesterday. The girl replied that this was exactly what had happened. The emperor thought for a moment and said that his ward's hands contained a miraculous power that was healing him. Chloe touched Declan Stauffen's hand again and felt something strange and pleasant. The emperor also liked this gentle touch. The main character smiled at her guardian and said that she remembered something important. Once, as a child, the girl was told that her hands could heal sick people. Maybe it worked with the sick emperor. These words puzzled Declan Stauffen a little. He had never encountered such phenomena before. This surprised the main character, because, in her opinion, the emperor has access to everything in his empire. The girl was upset and began to get nervous. She would have to explain to her guardian what healing hands were again and improve his education. Declan Stauffen should read more useful books. After a few minutes, the main character calmed down and proposed a new game to the emperor. She wants to sing Declan Stauffen a lullaby and see what will come of it in the end. The proud emperor said that he did not need a lullaby to fall asleep, but the girl hastened to calm him down and asked him not to be naughty. The monarch should like this simple and beautiful song. The main character added that she would sing her guardian her favorite lullaby. She tuned herself into a lyrical mood and prepared to perform the song. The emperor allowed his ward to show her talent. A few seconds later, Chloe began singing a pleasant and simple song with a monotonous melody to Declan Stauffen. It seemed a little ridiculous to the emperor, but he gradually began to calm down and fall asleep. The song ended, and the main character noticed that her guardian was sleeping like an innocent baby. The girl really liked the effect that the lullaby had on Declan Stauffen. Chloe felt an inner peace as she sang her favorite lullaby. The girl noticed that she, too, felt sleepy. It happened for the first time since she found herself in this fantasy world. It's time to get some good rest and sleep. The main character can't know what the coming day has in store for her, so she'll need some new strength. Declan Stauffen also needs a good, deep sleep. Chloe lay down comfortably next to her guardian. She looked at the sleeping, unfortunate emperor and said that now he would not see any nightmares in his sleep. The girl would take care of that. The main character closed her eyes with a light heart and wished Declan Stauffen good night. This man deserved the care that his ward showed him. The long-suffering emperor and his ward sleep peacefully and quietly on a soft bed. For the first time in a long time, they are not worried and see beautiful dreams that will give them strength for the further fight against enemies and adversity. A new day has dawned. The imperial greenhouse is aglow with all the colors of the rainbow in the bright sunlight that floods everything around. The fragrant flowers have already opened their buds and are giving this world their fragrance. Noah the valet is in a great mood. Declan Stauffen's loyal servant is serving him and his new girlfriend at breakfast. Just now, Noah has brought in new dishes and placed them on the table, which is laid in the flower greenhouse. The main character marvels at the variety of dishes at breakfast, but the girl is very upset by the fact that she cannot eat and enjoy the taste of these magnificent delicacies. The doll's body is not adapted for this. Declan Stauffen looked at his charge and asked if everything was to her liking. The girl replied that she loved desserts and dreamed of enjoying them to the fullest. The main character was a little embarrassed and said that she didn't want to seem rude, but she couldn't even hold a fork properly in her doll-like hands, which still didn't obey her very well. Declan Stauffen smiled and told his charge that there was no particular need for that. Chloe wouldn't be able to eat anyway, so she could calm down and not worry about the fork. But the main character is not going to stop there. She decided, at any cost, to taste all the luxurious sweets that are on the table. The girl took a fork and tried to spear a piece of dessert on it. But this time, Chloe managed to do something incomprehensible and funny. She missed, and several cakes flew to the side. The emperor did not expect such a turn of events. As a result, the cakes that flew off the main character's plate ended up in the cup from which Declan Stauffen drinks his coffee. Splashes of hot coffee flew in all directions and splashed the emperor. The girl was not at all embarrassed after her unsuccessful attempt to taste the delicious cakes. She laughed, looking at the ruler of the empire, who now looked very ridiculous. Chloe said that this was her sweet gift to her guardian. Declan Stauffen did not hesitate to answer his charge. He took another cake from the table and said that he also had a gift for the main character, who deserved it today. After that, the emperor, without a twinge of conscience, threw the cake with all his might into the cup of coffee that was near Chloe. This caused the same effect as the throw of the main character. The coffee flew in small and warm droplets in all directions, ending up on the girl as well. This upset the main character very much, and she complained to the treacherous emperor that he was treating her too cruelly and impolitely. But Declan Stauffen was very pleased with his action, justifying it by the fact that it was retaliatory. Chloe calmed down a little and said that she was very sorry that her consciousness was in the body of a small and helpless doll who couldn't even taste what dessert tasted like. Declan Stauffen listened carefully to his interlocutor and asked her why she thought so. The main character answered her guardian that this was all an obvious fact that hardly required explanation. The Emperor advised the girl to show more patience and humility in the current situation. To this, the main character replied that such a development of events does not suit her. She wants to be in a real human body. Declan Stauffen hastened to reassure his charge and said that her situation could soon change for the better. The Emperor explained that he had ordered his loyal valet to hire the best puppeteer in the state. Finding a top-notch specialist may take some time, but it will be worth it. So Chloe needs to be patient and behave appropriately. The main character is very grateful to her Emperor for taking care of her again. When the valet Noah finds the puppeteer, Chloe will be able to gain even more freedom by disguising her movements as the results of his work. Maybe this will help the girl get out of the cramped body of a small doll. Chloe immediately imagined herself having breakfast with Declan Stauffen every morning and enjoying the magnificent desserts from the best pastry chefs in the Empire. The monarch was pleased that the main character had accepted his idea of a puppeteer very well. After that, Declan Stauffen declared that he had had enough to eat and now wanted to take a walk in his luxurious garden. The Emperor took his favorite doll in his arms and went for a walk in a great mood. But suddenly, something unexpected happened. During a walk, Declan Stauffen met Duke Otten. This somewhat confused the main character, but the Emperor controls himself perfectly. He is extremely polite and courteous to the lord he hates, who killed his younger sister. The monarch, experienced in court intrigue, smiled at the Duke as he approached. Declan Stauffen said he had not expected to see Lord Othan in his summer garden. The Duke also greeted the Emperor and smiled at him. He behaved with dignity and replied that today was a fine day for walking in the magnificent imperial garden. Lord Othan decided to immediately begin new intrigues and asked if the Emperor was really walking around with his younger sister's doll again today. It looks a little strange from the outside. Declan Stauffen answered his enemy very calmly that he always walked with his favorite doll. This should not be news to the Duke, who knew it very well. The rebellious lord began to get angry at the Emperor for his politeness and the calm with which he responded to his questions. But the Duke controlled himself and did not show it. The main character listens attentively to the conversation of two aristocrats who are mortal enemies. The girl wisely decided not to show herself at the moment and pretend that she is an ordinary doll. Lord Othan continued to ask his tricky questions of the Emperor. He asked Declan Stauffen why he did not stroll through his luxurious garden with the Empress, but instead spent all his free time with a common doll. The Emperor's heart is filled with rage and anger after the words he heard from the hostile nobleman. But Declan Stauffen holds up well. He pretends that everything is fine. The proud monarch replied to his offender that he would be glad to meet a worthy candidate for the vacant position of Empress. If, of course, the Duke had a suitable aristocrat in mind. Chloe didn't expect such a turn of events. The main character admired the answer the Emperor gave to his opponent. Declan Stauffen really knows how to put his opponent in his place. Duke Othan is a little surprised by what the monarch said. He also did not expect that the Emperor would ask him about a suitable noblewoman to replace the Empress. The enemy lord does not want to give in. He asked Declan Stauffen if he is really ready to find himself a worthy wife. The Duke can help him with this, if he wants it. Declan Stauffen decided to take the situation to the extreme. He smiled at his interlocutor and turned to his favorite doll, asking her what she thought about a wife for the Emperor. The main character's guardian asked her if she would be jealous if he married some worthy noblewoman. It would take up a lot of his time, and he would not be able to take care of Chloe as he did before. But the girl decided not to answer her guardian and not to show to the hostile Duke that she could talk and move. This could harm their common cause. Declan Stauffen decided to take his favorite doll in his arms, taking it from his faithful valet Noah. At the same time, the Emperor told the Duke that, apparently, his Chloe was against her brother's marriage. She would be unhappy if he got married. The cunning monarch began to stroke the hair of the main character, saying that she was the most important girl in the world for him. That is why he would never marry anyone. The Duke, deceived, suspects nothing. Declan Stauffen simply mocks him, but does so very quietly, pretending to be mad. The hostile lord is very happy that the Emperor has once again confirmed his madness. After this, Duke Othen told his master that he was left all alone. If he died, his line would end and this could threaten the existence of the empire. The emperor's enemy continued his shameless and stupid provocations. He said that there were various unpleasant rumors circulating among the nobility, as if the emperor had lost his military valor and his sword had become dull because of an ordinary soulless doll. The situation began to heat up to the limit. The main character found herself between two fires that could destroy her. It seems to the girl that in a moment these two aristocrats will pounce on each other and grab each other by the throat. But at the same time, they will smile politely, observing the rules of palace etiquette. Suddenly, Duke Othen decided to retreat and defuse the situation, because his hour of triumph had not yet come, and he would certainly lose this battle. The enemy lord said that he cared about the well-being of the emperor and the continuation of his line. That was all he wanted to convey to him. Declan Stoffen had not yet answered his enemy. He told his valet Noah that he wanted to reschedule his walk with Chloe for another time. The loyal servant replied that the emperor's will was law for him. The monarch smiled and added that today he wanted to show the main character all the best that his state has. But it turned out that this was not so, hinting at Duke Aten. This greatly surprised Chloe and Noah. Declan Stoffen said that he wanted to return to his palace immediately. The valet picked up the main character and they headed to the emperor's castle. Duke Othen went the other way, not responding to the monarch's subtle insult. The humiliated and insulted lord turned to look at Declan Stoffen and his small retinue. The duke's eyes sparkled with hatred and a thirst for revenge. At that moment, Lord Othen promised himself that he would not tolerate the impudent antics of the mad emperor for long. He would definitely take revenge for all his grievances, and it would happen very soon. Declan Stoffen returned to his office and sat his favorite doll on the pillow that is on his desk. He told the main character that he would take her for a walk in the Imperial Garden next time. Suddenly, the girl became touched and decided to apologize to her guardian. But Declan Stoffen cannot understand what sins the main character asks him for forgiveness for. He asked the girl to explain to him what she felt guilty about before him. All this is very strange for Declan Stoffen, who has always been distinguished by excessive harshness in communication with others. The main character burst into tears and said that it was all her fault. During the state meeting, the girl gave herself away, and now rumors are spreading about Declan Stoffen that could harm him. The emperor listened carefully to his ward and said that nothing terrible had happened. Ridiculous rumors about Declan Stoffen's madness had been spread before, and Duke Othen had always been his mortal enemy. Suddenly, the emperor's mood changed dramatically, and stingy manly tears appeared in his eyes. Declan Stoffen remembered that Duke Othen had cruelly and cold-bloodedly killed his younger sister during the imperial hunting competition. The main character realized that her grief was insignificant compared to her guardian's misfortune. The girl regretted that she had made the emperor remember her pain again. She was very angry with herself and the hated duke. Chloe rose to her feet abruptly and stopped crying. She called the hostile duke abusive names, but the emperor said that there was no need to worry about one's enemies. They simply needed to be destroyed. But the girl finds it very difficult to contain her negative emotions. She clenches her little fists tightly and promises Declan Stoffen that she will no longer allow the hated Lord Othen to do his dirty deeds. The main character also promised her guardian that she would never, under any circumstances, leave him alone and would be with him until the last minute. This touched Declan Stoffen very much. When the emotions of the interlocutors had calmed down a little, the emperor asked his ward what she could do to counter the insidious and powerful duke, having such a fragile doll body. The girl told her guardian that he underestimated her. Now she can move her limbs and talk. This is already a lot in the current situation, which can improve at any moment. The main character said that she plans to first collect all the information she can find useful. To do this, she will have to study a large number of books. Chloe said that the emperor could calmly attend to state affairs, of which he had accumulated a great many, while she would study the scientific treatises in which she was interested. The heroes decided to do so. But after a few minutes of hard work, Chloe began to fall asleep over the book she was reading. The emperor noticed this. He suggested his charge to get some sleep and do it on a soft pillow, not a hard book. The girl yawned and replied that she was just thinking a little and did not want to sleep now. But that was not true. Chloe was stressed and tired today. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door of the imperial office. It was the first minister of the empire. He entered Declan Stauffen's chambers after receiving the appropriate permission and reported that he was worried about the insidious rumors that were damaging the monarch's reputation. Declan Stauffen listened attentively to the report of the First Minister and said that he had already heard about similar gossip from Duke Otten when he met him in the Imperial Garden. Mason Buckle was very upset by this news. Was the hostile lord trying to insult the Emperor again and provoke him into conflict? This was simply unacceptable. The monarch pointed to the main character and said that Duke Othan had offered to marry him, but he had refused to do so, citing Chloe's dissatisfaction with this matter. The Emperor sits calmly in his office chair and says that there is nothing unusual about this. The Duke always behaves strangely. But the First Minister of the Empire replied that this time the matter is taking a serious turn. Mason Buckle looked at his master and said that the people would approve of Declan Stauffen's marriage and would gossip less. The monarch replied to the minister that he did not need a wife now. The First Minister of the Empire continues to insist on his own. He said that Declan Stauffen needs not only a wife, but also an heir who will continue his line and give the Emperor peace of mind. The dejected monarch looked wearily at his First Minister and said that new relatives would only cause him headaches, and the heir could become an obedient puppet in the hands of the enemies of the imperial family. The Emperor, wise from bitter experience, believes that no one can be trusted in this world. All people are simpletons, greedy for power and money, who are ready to do anything to get what they want. They have forgotten about true love, honor, and their duty to the fatherland. The main character was very upset by the words she heard from her guardian. The unfortunate Emperor does not trust anyone in this world, which is why his mind is clouded. The girl also noticed Mason Buckle, who covered his face with his hand as he listened to the ruler. Chloe noticed that the First Minister agreed with Declan Stauffen, but not on everything. The main character realized the simple fact that an emperor who was disappointed in people would have a very hard time finding a life partner. To do this, he needs to learn to trust people again. The First Minister of the Empire calmed down a little and began to reason logically and soberly. He said that the Emperor could arrange a fictitious marriage to stop idle gossip. A ball was planned soon in honor of the birthday of Declan Stauffen's younger sister. Ambassadors from the kingdoms of Yelo and Tiers would be there. The circumstance could be used. The main character did not expect such a turn of events. It turns out that soon there will be a ball in her honor. Or rather, this holiday will be dedicated to the memory of the deceased princess. But this difference will not have a significant meaning. Declan Stauffen listened carefully to his First Minister and agreed with his arguments. He asked Mason Buckle to let him know if there was any news about the planned ball in honor of his younger sister. The Emperor's friend and comrade bowed to him and promised to keep him informed of all developments. After this, Mason Buckle said that his report was finished. The main character turned to her guardian and asked if it was necessary to arrange a party in honor of the little princess's birthday. Declan Stauffen looks at his charge and does not understand why she asks such strange questions. All this greatly surprised the Emperor. The monarch began to get angry at the girl for such strange behavior. Doesn't she understand that the memory of the little princess has always been Declan Stauffen's first priority? The Emperor looked closely at his ward and said that he would not refuse a banquet in honor of his younger sister for anything in the world. Declan Stauffen was so excited that his hands began to shake. He said that on this day everyone would remember his little sister, who had fallen victim to a treacherous plot and died. The main character hastened to calm the Emperor and said that she did not want him to forget about his younger sister. The girls mean something completely different when they ask about the holiday. Declan Stauffen listens attentively to his interlocutor. Chloe tries to come up with an excuse that will allow the Emperor to cancel the planned celebration, which could bring new troubles. The main character thought for a moment and said that instead of a banquet in honor of the little princess's birthday, she suggested holding a memorial celebration. It would be more fair. Then this celebration will have a different meaning, which better corresponds to the current reality. On this day, all the inhabitants of the Empire will remember the little princess and sympathize with the loss of Declan Stauffen. This way of posing the question will stop idle gossip among the Emperor's subjects and will restore his reputation, arousing sincere sympathy. The mad monarch listened attentively to his ward and asked if she really was his younger sister's friend, or if it was all a fabrication. The girl replied that she had been close to the little princess during her lifetime. Declan Stauffen got angry when the main character answered him. He said that a real friend of his little sister would never suggest such things that insult the memory of the little princess. The emperor was very angry with the girl and said that he could no longer trust her as he had before. The main character does not understand why Declan reacted so sharply to her words. Chloe said that she was a friend of Her Highness who had bequeathed to always protect her elder brother from any misfortunes and troubles. The emperor's words were unfair to her. Declan calmed down a little and listened carefully to his charge. There was some sense in the girl's words. He needed to hear what she had to say next. The main character said that she wanted to help the emperor correct the current situation, which was not going in his favor. Foreign ambassadors would be present at the memorial celebration, who would think that Declan believed his younger sister was alive and was celebrating her birthday. This would spread idle gossip about the madness of the ruler of the empire throughout the world. The girl added that this would undermine the emperor's authority even more. But Declan stood his ground. He said that he didn't care what others thought. For him, his younger sister, whom he loved very much, was always the most important thing. The unfortunate monarch rose from his chair and thought about his life. He said that in his life there had been no people for a long time who understood his pain and could share it with him. The angry and disappointed emperor looked askance at his ward and said that he could no longer trust her either. This made him very sad. Declan added that the main character should not interfere in his personal affairs anymore. Otherwise, it could end badly for her. The girl listens attentively to her guardian and is in a state of shock. Chloe was very upset when she heard all this addressed to her. She sincerely believed that she had managed to get closer to Declan. But it turned out that this was not the case. The main character thought that the wounded heart of the unfortunate emperor was like a piece of ice, which was chained in iron chains and no one could melt or break it. The girl thought that she could succeed and gain the trust of the mad monarch if she put in enough effort. But it was all in vain. Declan experienced too much pain and was disappointed in people. The emperor still turns away from the main character. And this happens regardless of what she does to save his soul, which wanders in the darkness of illusions and fears. It seems that the unfortunate monarch chose the path of suffering and loneliness to atone for all the sins that he had brought upon himself. It is all very sad and painful. The main character's soul is torn apart by grief, resentment, and pity for a man who is destroying himself and does not even think about his salvation. It is impossible to help such a person until he himself wants it. Chloe is silent. Conflicting feelings fill her little heart and tears squeeze her throat. The girl does not know what to say to her guardian, to whom she has already become attached. The main character gathered her strength and said that she wanted to give up everything and leave. Declan heard these words and became wary. Whatever the case, the mad emperor cannot allow the girl to leave. He understands that she is very important to him. Chloe must stay with her guardian, no matter what. The main character stands before Declan. Her shoulders are slumped and her gaze is directed at the floor. The girl does not want anything anymore. She is disappointed in her emperor, who does not want to fight for his salvation anymore. At that moment, the main character left the body of the emperor's favorite doll again and took the form of a ghost girl. This surprised Declan very much. He asked Chloe why she changed her appearance again. The ghost girl is crying. She herself did not notice how she left the doll's body. This puzzled the main character. And now she is trying to understand what she will do next. Chloe looks at her transparent hand and realizes that intense emotions and stress have caused another transformation of her essence. Perhaps this is for the best. Declan came closer to his ward to touch her, but the main character did not like it very much. She was very angry and upset by the stupid behavior of the emperor. The ruler of the empire has already recovered a little from his outburst of anger. He wants to talk to the main character about what happened. But the ghostly girl does not want to talk to him now. A moment later, Chloe suddenly disappeared, vanishing into thin air. This left Declan very puzzled, as he had not expected such a turn of events. The unfortunate emperor grabbed his head and realized that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had insulted a very close friend who was ready to do anything for him. Declan went to his office window and looked out to distract himself from his bad thoughts. But he couldn't. The ghost girl wouldn't leave his head. The emperor reflected on his stupid behavior with his ward. Perhaps Declan will have to change his manner of communication with the main character to avoid quarrels with her in the future. At this time, Chloe went to the Imperial Garden. She came here upset and now does not know where to go and what to do next after the quarrel with Declan. The girl understands that she also got carried away when communicating with the Emperor, who has an unstable psyche. Perhaps she will have to return to her guardian again to discuss everything again. But the main character thinks that Declan Stoffen behaved disgustingly with her today. She wanted to help this unbearable egotist finally find peace of mind, but he rejected her help. Chloe will not allow herself to be treated like this again. The ghost girl decided that the selfish monarch would do well to reflect on his terrible behavior. In the meantime, the main character will have a wonderful time and enjoy the beauty of the luxurious imperial garden. Chloe walked a little along the garden path and suddenly noticed that an unfamiliar young man with pink hair was standing in front of her. The main character immediately became interested in this lonely nobleman, who stands with his back to her and thinks hard about something. The girl does not know who he is, but now she will try to take a better look at him. Chloe is especially intrigued by the young man's charming pink hair. The ghostly girl tries to remember who this nobleman is and what he could be doing here all alone. Suddenly, the stranger turned towards the main character and she exclaimed with admiration. Chloe really liked the handsome features of the young nobleman. She appreciated them. The ghost girl had never seen such a handsome young man before. The main character covered her face with her hands in admiration and thought that she was very lucky to meet this beautiful young man today. This busy day is full of pleasant surprises. The stranger looks towards the ghostly girl and smiles sweetly. Looking at him, you immediately want to smile back. Chloe immediately compared this guy to Declan Stoffen and realized that he looked better than the Emperor. At least this young man always smiles, unlike the always frowning monarch. The main character doesn't know why she thought about it and began to subconsciously compare the Emperor and this beautiful stranger. Perhaps female nature always takes its toll, and it can't be fooled. Chloe looks closely at the thoughtful, handsome young man and tries to remember if there was anyone in her favorite romantic novel with similar pink hair. The main character tries to strain her memory for a few minutes and figure out who this young man is. But so far, the ghostly girl has failed, no matter how hard she tries. Suddenly, Chloe had a revelation. Finally, the heroine's efforts were crowned with success, and she remembered who this beautiful young man was, whom she had so happily met during a walk in the Imperial Garden. The ghost girl met this character in her favorite romance novel. This handsome young man with pink hair is named TYRANN. He is the crown prince of the kingdom of Gemin, which Declan Stoffen conquered and destroyed during his bloody wars. The main character also remembered that TYRANN is currently being held hostage by Declan Stoffen. This is necessary for political reasons to ensure the safety of the empire. Knowing the cruel nature of the mad emperor, one can say that he treated the crown prince of the Gemin kingdom quite mercifully. The unfortunate hostage could have suffered even more. But he is kept in decent conditions and has everything necessary for the normal life of an aristocrat. The young man lacks only freedom for complete happiness. The ghost girl continues to watch TYRANN. She thought that this unfortunate young man has a strong will because he has not lost his radiance and good nature in captivity. Chloe looks closely at the charming captive and does not understand how one person can combine so much beauty and strength of spirit. This young man is simply beautiful. He immediately conquered the ghostly girl. Suddenly, the main character heard someone's footsteps and immediately realized that someone was approaching her in TYRANN. A ghostly girl watches the captive prince nearby. Chloe is in for a new surprise. Declan Stoffen approaches TYRANN and starts talking to him about something. The main character did not expect such a turn of events. Judging by everything, after a quarrel with his ward, the ruler of the empire is especially gloomy today. His gaze is focused and very stern. The emperor holds his favorite doll in his arms. Declan Stoffen walked up to his captive and looked at him carefully. His gaze showed distrust of TYRANN. The crown prince of the Gemin kingdom was a little embarrassed when the emperor approached him. It was a little unexpected for him. But after a few moments, TYRANN managed to pull himself together. The good-natured young man smiled at Declan Stoffen and prepared to greet him, as required by court etiquette. In TYRANN's position, it was very important to behave correctly and not to irritate the cruel emperor once again. The crown prince of the state of Gemin bowed politely to Declan Stoffen and called him the son of the empire. After that, the courteous youth greeted the emperor in the most refined terms. When TYRANN greeted the emperor of the empire, he also greeted Declan Stoffen's favorite doll, wishing her a good day. The emperor was very pleased with his prisoner's politeness, but he did not show it. Declan Stauffen told his interlocutor that he had not seen him for a long time. Sayanviaran replied that it was true. He had not seen the emperor since he had been held hostage in the imperial castle. The monarch listened attentively to the crown prince of the kingdom of Gemin, and his words slightly confused Declan Stauffen. For a moment, the emperor thought that the prince was being a little ironic. Declan Stauffen wanted to take out his pent-up anger on Sayanviaran after his quarrel with Chloe. But the prince smiled so sincerely at the emperor that he immediately changed his mind about punishing the young man. The gloomy ruler of the empire said that he had no complaints against the prince. Sayanviaran bowed politely to the monarch and thanked him for this. After this, Declan Stauffen continued his walk through the imperial garden, and the heir to the kingdom of Gemin remained in the same place and continued to enjoy the view of the beautiful roses, which were especially beautiful today. The emperor did not come to his garden without a reason. From the window of his chambers, he noticed that the ghostly girl had gone into the garden after a quarrel with him. So he wanted to find her and talk to her. Declan Stauffen found Chloe and approached her. Sayanviaran admired the beautiful flowers, but for a moment he wondered why Declan Stauffen was now out in the imperial garden. It seemed a little strange to him. The emperor approached the main character. An oppressive silence fell between Declan Stauffen and Chloe. They know they need to talk, but neither can start the conversation first. The monarch was the first to break the unpleasant silence. He told his ward that she should not walk alone or stray far from the doll, because no one knows what this could lead to. Declan Stauffen paused for a moment and added that the ghostly girl should not think that he was worried about her. At this, the emperor blushed deeply. He was unable to hide his embarrassment. The main character noticed this and drew her own conclusions. The ghostly girl smiled slightly and thought that she was dear to the emperor. But he did not want to show it to others, nor did he want to admit it to himself. The heroine's heart finally melted, and she forgave Declan Stauffen's rudeness today. The ghostly girl promised the emperor that she would no longer walk alone. The main character's guardian suggested that she take a short walk through the luxurious imperial garden. Chloe immediately agreed to her guardian's offer and came closer to him. The main character and Declan Stauffen went for a walk in the imperial garden, which today, as luck would have it, is especially magnificent. The weather is beautiful. Colorful butterflies are flying everywhere, collecting fragrant nectar from fragrant flowers. While walking with the emperor, the ghostly girl decided to learn more about Sayanviaran. She asked Declan Stauffen what he could tell her about the crown prince of the Gemin state. Chloe added that the pink-haired boy seemed like a very nice person to her. These words angered Declan Stauffen. A semblance of jealousy towards the handsome boy crept into his icy heart. The ghost girl continues to praise Sayanviaran. She said that the smile never leaves the prince's handsome face, and he seems very kind and sweet. The emperor watches his ward closely. He said that Chloe is still a very naive and stupid girl, but with experience this will pass. The main character fell silent when Declan Stauffen put her in her place. The emperor's words did not so much upset the ghostly girl as intrigue her. The emperor of the empire looked meaningfully at his ward and asked her if Sayanviaran really seemed like a nice and good-natured young man to her. Chloe answered in the affirmative. Declan Stauffen smiled mysteriously when he heard the ghostly girl's answer. He said that this sweet and good-natured at first glance young man was one of the main candidates for the attempted murder of the emperor. Perhaps Sayanviaran had slipped poison into the monarch's food during the memorable breakfast. The main character listened carefully to her guardian and laughed. She said that it was impossible because Sayanviaran could not hurt anyone. He looked like a cute kitten. The bitterly experienced monarch smiled meaningfully at his charge and asked her if she had ever wondered why the crown prince of the state of Gemin, which Declan Stauffen had destroyed, was treating his mortal enemy so kindly and politely. Didn't Chloe find it very suspicious? The main character listened to the emperor and tried to object to him, but doubts had already crept into her heart. Maybe Declan Stauffen was absolutely right about Sayanviaran. Chloe thought that it was the emperor's own fault that he had become such a cruel tyrant. That's why he had so many enemies who wanted him dead. Declan Stauffen snapped his charge out of her stupor with a snap of his finger and asked her what she was thinking about at the moment. After that, the ruler of the empire continued his walk and called the ghostly girl to follow him. Chloe thought again that Declan Stauffen had an unbearable character, but there were even some advantages to this. But the whole problem is that the Emperor's difficult character may serve him badly during the upcoming celebration in honor of the little princess's birthday. The main character decided that she would try to convince Declan Stoffen to change the format of the planned party in honor of his little sister, until it worked. Chloe continued her walk with her guardian. At this time, in another part of the garden, the crown prince of the Gemin state is also strolling and admiring the beautiful flowers. He approached the gardener who was tending the flower bushes and trees to talk to him. The gardener was so engrossed in his work that at first he didn't even notice Sean Viarin approaching him. But then he noticed the unexpected visitor. The young prince greeted the worker and smiled at him. The gardener also greeted Sean Viarin and said that he did not expect to see him here. The worker decided to go down the stairs to talk to the guest more easily. The young prince said that he had nothing special to do, so he came up with an entertainment for himself. But to make this idea a reality, Sean Viarin would need the help of a gardener. The young prince's words interested the worker, and he asked him what he had in mind. The noble captive of the emperor said that he wanted to take up flower growing, but he did not know how to do it. The gardener asked the young man what kind of flowers he preferred. He would be happy to help Seon Viaran grow flowers. The heir to the throne, Jamin, said that he really likes violets. Therefore, he will need seeds or seedlings of these beautiful flowers. The gardener replied to Seon Viarin that he could deliver him violet seeds. He was very glad that the young prince had chosen such a wonderful hobby. It would relieve his boredom. After this, the worker checked his pockets and took out a small envelope containing seeds of wild pansies. By a lucky chance, the gardener was planting these flowers today and still had some seeds for Seon Viarin. The young prince took the bundle of violet seeds in his hands and unwrapped it. He looked closely at the flower seeds and smiled mysteriously. This seemed a little strange to the gardener. Something tells the worker that the young man has something in mind that he doesn't want to tell him about. But in the end, it's none of his business. He should be concerned with the well-being of the imperial garden, not palace intrigues. Seon Viarin put the bundle of pansy seeds into the inside pocket of his coat and thanked the gardener for his help and concern. The worker bowed politely to Crown Prince Jamin and said that these seeds would definitely grow into beautiful flowers. Seon Viarin went on to walk around the imperial garden. When the always smiling prince turned away from the gardener, his expression changed abruptly. It became hard and impenetrable. Seon Viarin quietly whispered through his teeth that the day would come when he would blossom like a beautiful flower. But the time had not yet come. This eventful day has come to an end. A quiet summer evening has arrived. The inhabitants of the imperial castle are getting ready for bed. Declan Stoffen has already gone to bed and is trying to fall asleep. The main character is sitting next to the emperor. She has once again inhabited the body of the monarch's favorite doll and now wants to ask her guardian some important questions. The emperor, looking tired, said that he was ready to answer the girl's questions. The main character asked Declan Stoffen how long he would continue to call her Chloe. These words puzzled the monarch. Declan Stoffen asked how he should address his charge then. The girl replied that the real name of his favorite doll was Erica. That was what the emperor's younger sister called her. The ruler of the empire listened attentively to the main character and now does not know what to answer her. He did not really like the idea that now he would have to call his ward by the name of Erica. The main character watches her guardian closely and waits for his answer. She understands that a name change will mean a change in the relationship for the emperor. The name Chloe is of great importance to the unfortunate monarch. Declan Stoffen is silent and thinks about what his ward said. He does not want to lose the memory of his dead sister, but the emperor is also afraid of offending the girl, who is also important to him. The main character doesn't like it when her guardian is so silent. It can lead to trouble. She thought about it and said that Declan Stoffen can call her whatever he wants. After that, the girl said that she was very tired after today's eventful day. The walk in the garden was beautiful, but a little tiring. The main character got ready for bed. But before closing her eyes and falling into a sweet sleep, the emperor's ward wants to sing him a lullaby again. This will help Declan Stoffen relax and forget about his problems. The ruler of the empire is puzzled by his ward's proposal. He said that only a girl can treat him like a small child. All this looks absurd and ridiculous. But the main character did not listen to her emperor. She simply began to sing her favorite lullaby. Declan Stoffen was indignant and resisted at first. But after a few minutes, he fell fast asleep. The girl thought that she hadn't even finished singing her lullaby yet, but the poor emperor had already gone to sleep. That was wonderful. Declan Stauffen had earned a good rest today. The main character looks closely at the powerful emperor and sees in him a small and innocent child who vitally needs care and affection. Chloe has great hopes that Declan Stauffen can become a ruler of the empire who will be loved by all his subjects. She promises her guardian that she will help him achieve this. Morning has come. The imperial castle is bathed in bright and warm rays of sunlight. Life in the empire of Declan Stauffen continues to go on as usual. The first minister of the empire, Mason Buckle, is walking down the corridor of the imperial palace. Suddenly, he overhears two maids talking about the emperor. The girls say that Declan Stauffen has become strange lately. He often talks to himself. Maybe the ruler of the empire really has gone crazy. The minister continues to eavesdrop on the maids unnoticed. Mason Buckle does not like to listen to idle gossip of the mob, but it may be useful. The maids mentioned a recent incident in the garden when the emperor talked to himself. The girls think that Declan Stauffen's mind is almost completely clouded. The maids also discuss their possible dismissal when the emperor becomes a completely insane person. Perhaps the girls need to look for new jobs. The prime minister got tired of this stupid conversation and went on about his business. Mason Buckle approached Declan Stauffen's chambers and knocked on the door of the room, informing its occupant that he had come to make his daily report. The emperor admitted his first minister. The friend of the ruler of the empire entered his chambers and froze in surprise. A rather strange picture appeared before the first minister, which left him momentarily stunned. Declan Stauffen is sitting on his sofa again with his favorite doll. But that's the strange thing, because lately the emperor has begun to do without her little by little. In addition, Mason Buckle noticed that there was a bowl of food in front of the emperor's favorite doll. It seemed as if the emperor wanted to feed his artificial favorite some breakfast. Declan Stauffen looked closely at his first minister and asked him if there were any new leads or clues in the case of the attempted poisoning of the emperor during breakfast. Mason Buckle said there was no new evidence yet, but he was here to check the truth of the rumors that were spreading around the imperial palace. The ruler of the empire looked sternly at his subordinate and asked him what kind of idle gossip he wanted to immediately check out when he came to an audience with Declan Stauffen. The prime minister decided to tell his emperor the truth. He told Declan Stauffen that everyone in the palace thought he was a madman who talked to himself. Mason Buckle understands that he is now taking a great risk, but the monarch's loyal friend continued and said that this information must be verified. If it is true, then the emperor should be treated. If it is all a lie, then it is necessary to urgently find the one who is spreading nasty rumors. Declan Stauffen listened attentively to his first minister and friend and smiled mysteriously, as long as the cruel monarch was not angry with Mason Buckle. This calmed him down a little. The emperor asked the first minister if he had forgotten what he had seen during his last visit to his office. Declan Stauffen's favorite doll had shown that she was alive and could move and talk. Mason Buckle does not know what to answer his master. He does not believe that Chloe is a living being. The monarch looked at his friend carefully and told him not to believe the gossip of servants who do not understand anything. Declan Stauffen communicated with the soul of his favorite doll when it left her body. The emperor added that the ghostly girl was still in this room next to him. The main character had once again left the cramped body of the doll and was now in the form of a ghost. She greeted the first minister, but he could neither hear nor see her. Only now did Mason Buckle realize that the dishes with food were not for the emperor, but for a ghostly girl that only Declan Stauffen could see. The first minister turned to his master and said that in any case, the disgusting rumors about Declan Stauffen's madness would not end well. Therefore, urgent measures must be taken. The emperor looked at his subordinate in surprise. His persistence was admirable. Mason Buckle told his master, concluding his speech, that he needed to stay away from the ghostly girl until the rumors stopped. The main character listened attentively to the first minister of the empire and thought that he was allowing himself too much in relation to her person. She had already saved the emperor from death more than once, and this was worthy of respect. Declan Stauffen looked at his subordinate with disapproval and refused to follow his recommendation. He would continue to communicate with the ghost girl. Mason Buckle continued to prove to his master that idle gossip could seriously damage his reputation, and that it must be stopped immediately by any means necessary. The emperor of the empire looked sternly at his first minister and said that it was his duty to look after the emperor's good reputation. Therefore, he needed to immediately deal with this problem in another way. Mason Buckle realized that he could get nothing more out of Declan Stoffen. He said that he would carry out his orders. But to do this, the Emperor would have to be more careful in public. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, preparations are in full swing for the upcoming celebration, which will be held in honor of the birthday of Declan Stoffen's younger sister. The main character was unable to convince the Emperor to change the format of the holiday and make it in memory of the little princess who died at the hands of insidious conspirators. But the girl did not waste time and received very important knowledge about her abilities. Chloe realized that she could go out and back into the body of the Emperor's favorite doll. But a certain amount of time had to pass for this to happen. An hour after returning to the toy's body, the main character can exit it again. This important information may be useful to Chloe in the future. Declan Stoffen ordered the maids to dress up his favorite doll beautifully for the upcoming party in honor of his little sister. The job is done, and now the maids can't stop admiring the result of their work. The quick-witted maids did a great job this time. They dressed the doll in a new dress and jewelry. Now this toy looks very much like a real girl, who is irresistible. The maids continue to admire the beauty of Declan Stoffen's favorite doll, and the main character, who is now in this toy, thinks that she now looks like a precious piggy bank for coins. Chloe doesn't like it at all that the maids flatter her so much and praise her beauty. It would be better if these idle girls would occupy themselves with more useful household chores. Suddenly, one of the maids noticed that the Emperor had entered the room. She greeted him according to all the rules of palace etiquette. Chloe looked in the direction where Declan Stoffen was. The main character is irresistible today. She noticed the guardian who entered the room and froze in amazement. The girl really liked what she saw. The Lord of the Empire is dressed in his finest military uniform, studded with precious military awards that sparkle in the sun with 1,000 dazzling lights. Today, Declan Stoffen is more handsome than ever. The Emperor entered the room and ordered the maids to leave the chambers immediately. The main character thought that her guardian was spoiled by his cruel character. Otherwise, he would be very popular with all the girls of the Empire. Declan Stoffen approached his charge and asked her what she thought of his appearance. The girl replied that the Emperor was simply irresistible today. The main character added that she had never thought about it before, but the Emperor had delighted her today. Declan Stoffen was very pleased with these words of his ward. He smiled mysteriously. The Emperor asked Chloe to come out of the body of his favorite doll. He wants to see how much the girl's ghostly image has changed after she changed her clothes and put on jewelry. The main character said that she would now try to fulfill her guardian's request. She concentrated and gathered her strength to leave the doll's cramped body. Chloe's transformation is accompanied by a bright glow. Declan Stoffen watches closely what is happening before his eyes. The main character managed to leave the doll's body and appeared before the Emperor in a ghostly form. Her appearance has changed greatly. She looks simply magnificent in a new pink dress and a precious tiara. Declan Stoffen saw the transformed Chloe and froze in amazement. The Emperor did not expect that the main character could be so beautiful. He cannot understand how he did not notice it before. The ghost girl noticed Declan Stoffen's intense gaze and asked him why he was looking at her like that. The ruler of the Empire replied that he was very unusual to see Chloe so well dressed. She was simply delightful today and looked like a real queen. The main character is pleased with these compliments from Declan Stoffen. She smiled and told the Emperor that he had embarrassed her with his flattering speeches. The noble girl thought for a moment and said that there would be many different guests from all over the continent at the feast today. It was so exciting. The Emperor replied that the large number of guests increased the danger to his life. Today, one must be extremely careful. After these words, Declan Stoffen ordered his valet to call the captain of the royal guard, whose name is Liam. The loyal servant of the Emperor said that he would immediately carry out his order. A few minutes later, Captain Liam of the Imperial Guard entered the room and stood before the ruler of the realm. He knelt down before Declan Stoffen and said that he was ready to carry out his orders. The Emperor greeted the captain of his guard and said that he had a very important and responsible task. He must personally ensure Chloe's safety. Declan Stoffen looked sternly at the officer and said that from now on he would be responsible for the safety of his beloved doll. If anything happened to her, Liam would be severely punished. The guard listened attentively to his master's order and said that he was ready to give his life for the safety of Her Highness. Liam had always been obedient and loyal to his master. Looking at what was happening, the main character again realized how much power was in the hands of her caring guardian, who trusted her very much and listened to her a lot. The ghost girl looked at Declan Stoffen's favorite doll and realized that from now on she was in the safe hands of a loyal knight who would do anything for her safety. That was admirable. After that, the main character took a closer look at the head of the Imperial Guard, Liam. She thought that the Emperor most likely trusted this officer very much if he entrusted him with the protection of his favorite doll. Declan Stoffen noticed the admiration with which his charge looked at the captain of his guard, and jealousy was again born in his heart. The Emperor immediately ordered the officer to leave the room. The main character noticed her guardian's embarrassment. She tries to understand why Declan Stoffen felt so awkward, but nothing comes to her mind yet. Chloe feels a little lost. The ruler of the Empire seemed to go mad for a second. He looked sternly at the ghostly girl he had just admired and said that she should not have paid so much attention to Captain Liam. Declan Stoffen added that Chloe should not trust anyone but him. This is very important. No one knows who will turn out to be the next traitor. These words puzzled the ghost girl very much. The Emperor looked intently at the main character and said after an awkward pause that in this palace she could trust only him and no one else. The little princess's birthday party is slowly getting underway. Guests from all over the world are arriving for the ball and are delighted that this year it is much better than last year. Noah, the valet, came out to the guests of the party and announced that the Emperor had entered the ballroom, accompanied by his younger sister Chloe. Declan Stoffen was on the stairs with his favorite doll in his arms. He was ready to go down to his guests. The ruler of the great empire is absolutely calm. He looks attentively at the guests who have arrived and seems to be closely studying each person who is present here. Declan Stoffen's loyal valet loudly announced to the guests that they could greet their emperor and show him their respects. The main character is again in the body of the monarch's favorite doll. She carefully watches everything that is happening now and again feels the greatness and power of her guardian over all these people who have gathered here and enthusiastically greet the great emperor and his younger sister Chloe. When the guests had paid their respects to the ruler of the empire and had fallen silent, Declan Stoffen thanked everyone present for coming to the ball and wished them a pleasant evening. The emperor added that he wished that everyone would show love and respect for his little sister Chloe today on her birthday. May everyone present have great pleasure. The loud praises began to sound again in honor of Declan Stoffen and his little sister. The guests were very pleased with the celebration. The monarch sat on his throne. The main character took the chair next to him. Magnificent music began to play in the huge ballroom. The celebration in honor of the little princess's birthday had begun and gradually entered into full force, preparing new trials and adventures for the heroes of this exciting story.